Hello and welcome to our coverage of Love is Blind. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Season 8 is here, and we are ready to get to know all of the amazing personalities, all the variety of people, and we got something. But I can't wait to talk about it. I am not alone to talk about season 8 of Love is Blind. Of course, I have my amazing co host who I hope loves Christmas as much as I do. Mary Kwiatkowski. Mary, how are you?
Oh, shoot. I've already put my stockings away, so I can't give you that in a gift exchange.
Dang it.
Sad. But yeah, I am back here. I feel like when we originally signed up to cover Love is Blind, I don't know about you, Asia. I did not think there would be 8 seasons.
No.
I didn't think that was possible. Didn't think that was going to be a thing that was going to happen. Certainly didn't think that we'd be doing 8 seasons within like 3.5 years, which is what it feels like.
Amazing.
Amazing. But yeah, we're back. We're here. We're in Minneapolis, and we're ready to talk about it because boy, did we get a lot of episodes.
A lot of episodes, a lot of conversation. But yeah, I have lots of thoughts, and I can't wait to hear the other thoughts from our third co-host here, who is also my co-host over on A Perfect Match, where we talk about Married at First Sight, which has been a banger this season. If you're not watching, I have my co-host, who I also hope loves Christmas as much as I do, Jason Reed. Jason, do you know who this is on my sweater?
That's the Buc-ee's boy, right?
Yeah,
That's
it
the Buc-ee's
is.
guy. Yeah, I know that. I got that. We've been assaulted by our Perfect Match listeners and viewers. Since you talked about Buc-ee's on that podcast, and they assaulted me. Like, you don't know what Buc-ee's is? This is Buc-ee's. So I've seen that little. Is that a beaver? What is that?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, it is a beaver.
Cool. Yeah, I'm happy to be here with both of you, with my number one and my number two.
But which is which?
Which is which? You'll never know. You'll never know. I would never.
Let's be honest. I'm the number two. It's fine.
What?
It's fine.
You don't know
don't
that,
have to
Mary.
lie.
You don't know that.
I mean, there was that one really special season we covered by ourselves, Jason.
Yeah,
we'll always have that.
Where Aysha had to work a lot.
Yeah. She's just too busy.
Mary, you mentioned, you didn't think you'd be here covering Love is Blind season 8. After this drop, I'm wondering, should there have been a Love is Blind season 8? I don't know.
I'm rather confused because at the end of season 7, they were jumping out of their seats to promote season 8. Like, they were so excited to show us. Was it Alex that was in the audience? They were
Alex,
just like,
I think.
Oh my gosh, I forgot this happened.
Alex, Brittany, and I think Joey were there, right?
They were so excited. Just like, season 8 coming to you Valentine's Day.
They had the nerve to put Brittany in the audience. Like, see, there are black people.
Be honest with me. Did y'all look this up, or did you remember that? I had no memory.
I specifically remembered Alex. I couldn't remember who else was there.
I do think I saw a picture of them in the audience, like in the last couple of days.
Okay, I would have had to consult my notes from last season, which I did not do. But yeah, I have no memory of that happening. Now you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, vaguely, but no.
Mm-hmm.
I
could not have you could have paid me money, and I would have never guessed any of the people who were there.
I feel a little gaslit because they made me excited because I was like, oh, they haven't had people in the audience from the next season. Like, this must be like so good. The way I had to just like hold my eyes open to get through these six, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes of pods was insane.
And the nerve of them to make each of those episodes over an hour. Some of them going 1 hour and 10 minutes. When typically runtime's usually like 50 to 55 minutes.
We might get even a 40-minute one episode.
Yeah. If we got a real banger, we go over an hour. None of these episodes will I call a banger. None of these episodes will I call good episodes worth the 1 hour and 10 minute runtime. I mean, yeah, I was nodding off during episodes. There was so much filler conversation and filler talk why am I hearing 5 minutes about someone, a grade someone got on an essay in school? Like, why do I care about that? Why is this in here?
See, this is why I don't like how this podcast has started. Because
Oh boy.
here's what I don't like. To make a good podcast on a show without the entire audience being like, they're just haters. Why are they talking about it if they all hate it? You both have put me in this scenario where now I have to be the one who liked the season.
Well, we didn't know we would hate it when we agreed to talk about it. That's not fair.
Look, I think that there are a lot of parts of this that did not need to be 6 episodes of pods. We didn't need to cover a lot of this for anywhere near this length of time. I've decided I'm changing my tune because for 7 seasons, I have said that I'm here for the love. I'm here for the marriages. I'm here for all of that.
Ooh.
But I've decided that I think that there might just be people who like to watch Love is Blind just for the process. And they don't actually care if the people get together. They don't care if we see 7 people go on a journey for 6 episodes in the pods and then none of them get together. Maybe it's about the climb. It's not about what's waiting on the other side.
Yeah, it's not
From
about the
philosopher.
destination.
The great philosopher.
It's not about how
Powers.
fast we get there, Jason.
Yeah.
So I think that there were positives in this. Now, shall we segue into the very obvious joke about the fact that this entire cast had the same name and all looked exactly the same? For at least a while. It took me quite a while to realize who was who, and I would like to just state once again that all of these shows, for at least the first several episodes, need to be wearing name tags. We need to be having a lower third telling me who they are, what their job is, and how old they are, and preferably who else they're dating. If they're in a love triangle, I need to see in parentheses
Dating someone,
also
yes,
dating,
that would be good.
blah blah blah. At least for the first few episodes, because they'll just like stick their card up when they first introduce them and never again. And that's difficult for me.
And then the worst part is they go away from certain people for almost a whole episode. And when they come back, you're like, I don't remember this person. I don't remember this person's story. I got to go back my notes and be like, okay, what did they talk about before? Because the before conversation was so boring and they went away from them for a long time. And then we come back to them. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot you even existed, person, whoever you are.
Right.
So that also made it tough.
Yes. And then they'll propose, and I'm like, were we rooting for that? I don't remember.
Yeah. Before we get much further, if you're here and you're like, what are these people talking about? We're talking about the show Love is Blind on Netflix. The concept is where you go through this whole experiment where you are proposing or getting engaged to somebody you have never, like, sight unseen, as Vanessa and Nick Lachey like to say. And then they basically are engaged for 4 weeks, and then they decide at the altar if they want to get married or they don't want to get married. So this is we started covering this season 2 of Love is Blind. So this is season 8. So definitely, if you want to go back and watch old seasons and listen to our coverage, it's right here on RHAP. You can subscribe to this podcast at WeKnowRealityTV.com or FirstSightPod.com, or you can subscribe anywhere you listen to your podcast on the Love at First Sight feed. Leave us a 5-star rating or review. If you like what you hear today, leave us a comment on the RHAP YouTube channel if you enjoy what you see. But yeah, we will be having pictures of these people on the YouTube version. So if you're listening, you're like, listen, you're saying a lot of M names and I have no idea what you're talking about. Go straight to YouTube, have supporting evidence, because that's actually the only way we're going to be able to get through this podcast, because we're 6 episodes in and I'm still trying to figure, wait, so this person is with this person. I know we wiped out 50% of the people we followed, it seems.
Well, and they had the nerve to, when Nick and Vanessa come in, like, this is the biggest season we've ever had. Why does that matter? We're not going to meet like 50% of them. Who cares if we got more contestants?
I used to go through and read the article and like look at all the names of the people and everything. And I stated this last season. I feel so bad for the people who go on this show and will like post their picture on Instagram, like their headshot from the cast promos, and be like, check out the show that I'm on. And then you literally never, and this is not an exaggeration, you literally never hear or see from them ever. And that's wild.
You get a random name and age when they're like in the lounge talking to the other people, like, Why
Like
do I care who this
Vanessa.
person is? Yeah. Okay. Her name's Vanessa. I won't know anything else about her ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of wild that this is one of the few shows where there is a whole cast list. It's like released with pictures and such, and you may never see that person. I swear we see more people on like the Squid Game, the reality TV version.
Was it last season when we had like sisters or twins or something, and then we never heard about that? It was like this whole thing. It was like,
I think
check out this season. There's going to be like twins that are going to be in there dating, and we never saw them.
Yeah, no.
So
it's kind of absurd, but I did like that, there wasn't anything impactful from Nick and Vanessa. They came in, came out, introduced the show, and got right out. That's all we need. That's all we need from them. I do want to point out, which there's been a lot of chatter online about this. When did they start getting approvals to play all these legit songs?
Yeah.
Yes, I noticed all of the needle drops that were happening throughout. We got Wrecking Ball. We got
Marry Me from Jason Derulo.
Yeah, I'm Yours.
Wait, Marry Me from Jason Derulo.
Isn't that Jason Derulo? Who was that?
I thought that was Bruno Mars.
That wasn't that Marry Me song.
Oh, it's a different version. Okay. Or like a different song.
But yeah, I noticed. I was like, since when? Because they did. Don't get me wrong. We still have the old staples. We had the moment where someone's like, I've never felt like this before. And then the song's like, I've never felt like this before, And then they're like, it's a miracle. It's a miracle to meet people. And so at least we still have that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We just also apparently have a budget for some other songs now.
I mean, let's not forget like the big deal it was when we got Leanne Womack, the Leanne Womack song on Zach and Bliss's season. We're like, oh my God, they actually paid for this music? And now it's just like all over the place.
Right. I was like, okay, obviously we know the popularity of Love is Blind has grown over the years. Like this is the one reality show that you'll see just random celebrities talking about like, oh yeah, I really love Love is Blind. Because it's a quick hit. Like you're going to get entertainment from it, which is why I think it's been so shocking this season that I'm just like, it was very difficult to get through because I'm just like, okay, that's a cliffhanger. Like that's the most drama we have right now to show is who Dave's gonna pick.
Yeah. So I would also just like to say, because I'm always curious about this, there were 2 other couples who got engaged that we never saw anything from.
Mm-hmm.
Why did we need to follow not 1, but 2 love triangles that resulted in 0 relationships when there were 2 couples who got engaged?
I mean, if Joey and Monica are one of your couples you're going forward with, how bad were those other 2 couples?
You know what? And again, we've seen 6 episodes at this point, and I have not read anything else online, meaning if I say anything that's positive about someone and someone's like, don't you know they cheated on their blah, blah, blah and shot their dog? Yeah, I can withdraw judgment at any point. But I will say Joey and Monica are very intriguing. I will say for that example, why did we see Sarah and Ben? We didn't need them. Let's put them in that category.
I feel like they were included for the topics alone that were discussed because of the relevancy in terms of like the social climate. I feel like the show, because of the lack of diversity in the cast itself, it feels like they included Sarah's perspective to just be like, hey, look, like, even though we do have people who care.
But then why didn't she just say, well, that's a deal breaker?
There was a lot of people here where I think most of us would be like, well, then you should probably just get up and leave then. That's a deal breaker. Okay. They were like, I'll look past it. Like, I think we can still make this work.
There are other things. I think I laughed at a joke a couple of days ago.
So that's what keep me in here right now. That's what I'm holding my hope on.
I will say there were some people that like that where I was like, really, Sarah? I thought like that would have been a hard deal breaker for you. And there are others that I was like, they're not going to leave. Oh, they did. Okay.
Queen Brittany, whatever that was.
Brittany. I know. I was like, I have to call her Britt because there's no way I can keep my pace of speaking the same and say Brittany. Like I have to slow down naturally.
She shall hereafter be known as Britt.
So we have Britt on the cast. Let's go ahead and get started about these couples because there's just there are a lot of thoughts. And also, if you're with us and you have not watched the first 6 episodes and you plan to, this is completely spoiler. We're like giving all of our thoughts about everything that happened. So,
and if you haven't, you can probably just stop and just listen.
You
to
would
this,
be
like,
okay.
to be honest.
Exactly. To be frank. So the first grouping we're going to talk about are 4 people who have the same relationship status that they had walking into the door. So let's go ahead and talk about Alex, Mason, Madison, and Meg. So we have one angle of this, which is Madison dating both Alex and Mason. Then we have the other angle of this where Mason is dating both Madison and Meg. I guess, overall thoughts?
Also, Alex and Mason are BFFs, apparently.
Apparently. Yeah, there are multiple relationships. Like, yes, we have the obvious romantic, but then we also have this bromance that I guess is important enough to have all 4 of these people walking out of here single.
So here's where I'll come in on this, and this is going to be a boring, non-interesting take. From what we saw, Alex looks like a nice, sweet guy who probably just needs to meet a girl in person because he, for whatever reason, remained in a relationship with some things that were, from his perspective, probably going to be deal breakers, at the very least deal breakers, in order to get engaged in a very short 10-day period or whatever. And he probably should have just left earlier on, or tried dating one of the other probably women who was also on this cast, given that it was one of the bigger casts. And I'm not to deny anything about his and Madison's relationship. It just seemed like I could have predicted this from a mile away.
Yeah, I think Alex is interesting because we are introduced to Alex, and for most of the drop, I'm like, Alex seems like a really, really good guy. And then he's doing these things like, and there's a lot of this in the drop of people like saying things like, "Oh my gosh, I've never felt this way with you before. I've never felt this or that in my life." And then at the end of the day, like, you know what? It's just probably not going to work. And also, the thing that I wasn't jiving with Alex about was his relationship with Mason. Once Alex realized that Mason was the other person that was vying for Madison's affection, he probably should have just like fallen back a little bit. But he was all like, bro, like giving him bro hugs, like not even telling him he knows that he is this other like person he's vying for Madison's affection for. That was weird to me.
Yeah, it definitely seemed weird the way that he was just not telling Mason what was happening.
Yeah.
But still trying to be comforting to him.
Yeah, and I think the part is that he felt bad for Mason, was genuinely wanted to be like his shoulder to cry on, and then he wanted both, and he wasn't going to be able to get both. And that's kind of where a lot of this comes to a head. There's obviously a lot that goes on with all the back and forth. But the main thing is that he has some reservations with Madison being so open about the fact that she has some avoidant personality traits, avoidant attachment style when it comes to what do you call that? Your love style, your attachment style.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and then and also considering the fact that he says that he has like anxious attachment style, and so he gets anxious about that. I don't think that he was wrong to feel that way. I also don't think that she was wrong to be like, well, this is how it is. We deal with it. I just think it's an incompatibility thing. And then when the part that I'm confused about, y'all help me understand this. I'm kind of blowing through a lot of this, but we got a lot of people to talk about. When Madison eventually decides to be with Alex, and then it seems like there's a chunk of time when Alex does not tell Mason that basically he's won and he's got Madison. And so Madison goes in to break up with Mason. The breakup is really awkward, and Mason basically tries to save face and take back the fact that he had said that he was all in on Madison. And then Madison is upset with Alex about that whole situation. The one thing I'm confused about is, why was Madison so upset about the situation with Mason when she didn't want to be with him. She had already chosen Alex at that point. So why is she so upset about, she's like, he really, really hurt me by taking that back. And I get it on the surface a little bit, but it's like, how hurt are you when you've already chosen a different guy? I feel like you shouldn't be that hurt.
I see it differently. Like I see that the reason for Madison's hurt differently. So when Madison decides to break things off with Mason, which it felt like that was the right decision because Alex was all in on her. It made sense. Because I feel like her and Meg, I mean, and all the women, even all the men, like you should want someone who's going to choose you. I think that's what it boils down to. Not someone who just wants to keep both of their options open until like somebody says a big enough red flag. But I feel like in the situation with Alex, it was like, okay, she had this connection with both of them. She's breaking it off with Mason. He's the one trying to take back this comment that already made her feel uncomfortable because she was like, this isn't my person. She already said that. Mm-hmm. And so for Alex to come in and be the one she's choosing, she's already agreed to be his girlfriend. And now Alex is trying to take up for Mason by like, he's trying to have Mason's back as like Mason's friend when it's like, you're my boyfriend. Why are you riding in on like the, like, I don't even know what comparison I'm trying to make or analogy I'm trying to make, but why are you trying to come in as his friend as opposed to being in the role of my boyfriend by saying, look, by validating her feelings and how she felt about that breakup and making her feel heard, because it felt like during that entire conversation, he was defending Mason, which is like, why are you doing that if you're my boyfriend?
Yeah, and I definitely didn't like that, and I completely understood that. To me, it seemed like the communication just completely broke down at that point of where neither one of them would budge on, like, it's just like they couldn't see each other's side. He's like, I'm hanging out with Mason. He's the person I'm actually getting his side of the story from. So when he is telling me, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have told that to Madison, I feel bad, and now I'm worried I've messed up things with Meg, the other girl. Like, I get that. I get what he's saying from his point of view on that. And I also get where if you're dating someone, you should have their back and it shouldn't matter about your friend. But
and that's the point.
That's relationship 101.
Well, no, and I completely understand that. I'm saying I feel like they were both, how do I say this? It's a surface level argument that's really about bigger things. And it felt like they were using this as like, oh, this is the catalyst for why it didn't work out, when I don't actually think it was. I think the catalyst is that he had reservations about the way that they communicate together. And probably she did too. And because it sort of ended a little bit mutually, I would say, that they weren't going to be able to kind of get through this together. I just feel like the words she was saying, like the actual words she was saying was like, she did say, I don't like that you're defending him and you're taking his side. And I feel like he was trying to take both their sides, which you can't do in this scenario.
Yeah, that was not.
But I think it's like very obvious. If I was Madison, I feel like I would have been able to see, hey, Mason's trying to save face. It's not that he did this horrible, horrible thing of trying to be with me and then taking it back. You were uncomfortable with it because you didn't like him. The thing that he said wasn't bad. Saying like, and she tried to play it like, I don't think he should have told me that that he was committing to me. It's like,
well, he shouldn't have if he didn't mean it. Like,
well, but I think the thing is, I think he did mean it. I think it was very clear that he did mean it, and I think she should know he did mean it. He wasn't taking it back because it was a lie and he didn't mean it. He was taking it back because you're breaking up with him, and he was trying to make himself feel better.
Exactly, and that's not okay either. Because now he's using that. He's using that to try to like, oh, Meg's gonna watch this back. So if I end up with Meg, she needs to think that I made a mistake. But it's like, no, you can't play with somebody like. They both were in the relationship with him. So it's like, I'm not going to just let you.
I think you can't have it both ways. I think Madison was trying to have it both ways of saying, I think Mason should date both of us and be open with both of us. Oh, wait, you were trying to date both of us? You can't do that.
He wasn't, though. He was saying, I'm committing to you, meaning I'm choosing you, Madison, over Meg.
A lot of this also, I think, really depends on when this happened. Did this happen on day 4 or did it happen on day 9? You know?
Right.
Because if this happened early on enough to where like Mason could have then built a good enough relationship with Meg, and I want to be clear, I'm not a Mason fan. I'm like, this
Mason
is not.
apologist.
I kind of nothing Mason. He's whatever. I feel like the only thing I'll say is I don't think that this one conversation is the reason Alex and Madison didn't get together. I think that they had reservations about each other, and this was the culmination in a bigger communication issue.
I think Madison's thing was that she just felt it was kind of a scummy move of Mason to rescind the commitment he had given her just to try and salvage something with Meg, who, he had pretty much already decided he was dumping before he got dumped by Madison. So
because he literally said in the quarters, I'm going to see my number one.
Yeah.
Right. So he tried to pull out, and I think Madison was very pissed about that. Not even just for her, but for Meg as well. Now it also felt like Madison took it personally that he rescinded that and went into the lounge and tried to place a bug in Meg's ear.
Yeah,
which I think is a big reason why Meg breaks it off later. I think she got influenced by Madison in that way. So Madison, for her part, did her job the way she wanted. Was like, oh, you're gonna pull out your love for me? Well, I'm gonna mess up all your stuff. She literally tells him that. She's like, you didn't just mess things up with me. Now you mess things up with someone else too.
Well, it's because they had already talked. When she said me and Meg
did
had
we
talked,
see that conversation?
We didn't, which is what I was so confused about, because they brought it up as if we are referring back to something. But I'm like, okay, we just didn't see them talk, but now we know, because the last thing we heard, Meg didn't even know Madison was dating Mason.
Mm-hmm.
It was Meg was the only one being vocal about it, and Madison knew Meg was dating Mason.
I feel like I just feel like we're missing something when it comes to Madison. I feel like the way I watched the show, I felt like she was saying a lot of things that were like, oh, I don't even really care about Meg talking about Mason because I know I really like Alex. It doesn't even bother me. And then she'd say things like, yeah, I feel like Alex is the one giving me all the commitment and Mason's not. And then when Mason tries to commit to her, she's mad about it. I felt like she was trying to say things, but it wasn't really how she was feeling.
I felt it was really hypocritical for Madison to bash Mason for keeping two options open when she herself was keeping two options open.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like she was being hypocritical by all this. This is why I feel like the logical response to, if someone says, I like you and I choose you, and then you're uncomfortable with it because you don't really like them, I think it's completely a human reaction to try and take that back to make yourself feel better. And whether it's to save face on the show, whether it's to keep your other options open, because we've seen this. Do we not? How soon we forget Zach and Bliss? You can have a second option and it can work out and it can actually be the one that you're meant for.
Well, and that's a big topic of the show. Should I be okay with being the second option? That's why Meg leaves, because she's not sure if she's the first or second option.
Right. I think that's a huge difference. But that's why I can't even compare this to Zach and Bliss, because Bliss knew she was the second option. Zach didn't try to say, oh, I took it back, I didn't mean what I said. He was like, no, I chose her and I was wrong.
He wanted his first option, saw that it was terrible, and was like, well, let me go to number 2 and see what that's about.
And that's the thing. I'm not saying Mason did everything right. I'm saying I don't know why Madison was so upset by it when she already hadn't she already knew she didn't like him. So why did she feel the need to go through and do all that instead? Because for all we know, and I mean, he didn't do this, but Mason could have gone to Meg and said, look, I'll be honest, you were my second option, but I would still really like to pursue this with you, which I think we have. I feel like we have seen that in the past. I don't know if it's worked out, but I think we have seen people admit hey, I was actually going to propose to someone else, but it was really close between you two, and I'd still like to pursue this.
I just don't know on this show, there should never be, the numbers 1 and 2 should never come out of my mouth. I just feel I feel things for both of them. So I don't know. No one's above each other yet.
Yeah. First couple days you could be I've got a couple people I'd be interested in pursuing. And then I mean, look, I never understand the people on these dating shows who fall in love with multiple people. I feel like it is so easy to tell so quickly who your top person is, that the only reason you would have more than one top person is just if you want to stay on the show longer. Which also, you know what? Get your bag. Do what you got to do. If you want to stay on the show longer, fine.
I don't know. I just feel like Madison's, I don't know, her moves, not I guess the sequence of events made sense to me because she had the conversation with Mason. He says he's committing to her. She walks away that didn't feel right. Goes to Alex, makes it official, goes back to Mason and breaks up with him. It wasn't like she continued to date Mason and
No,
like continue to kind of like have both options, knowing that, okay, Mason's committed to me, Alex committed to me. I didn't feel like she tried to string it along. I felt like the offense that was taken by her was when Mason tries to act like, oh, sorry, you weren't my number
Well,
one.
it's like he's saying you didn't mean that much to me anyway. So it's fine.
And yes, he's doing that to make himself feel better, but that doesn't take away how it's going to make Madison feel about that. Like,
But I
oh,
think
don't
it's
dismiss
so-
what we had.
it's like a semantics issue of Madison being like, well, I never said that I liked one person better than the other. So this whole time when I've been trying to choose between Alex and Mason, I'm actually in the clear because I never said the numbers 1 and 2. Whereas in her mind, she probably still had a 1 and 2. I mean, she clearly did because when Mason said he liked her, she's like, ooh, you know. So I feel like it's just like she was mad about Mason coming out and trying to say she liked her the best.
No,
And
no,
this is
I don't
also,
think
like,
she's mad that he said, I'm committing to you. She's mad that he tried to take it back.
well, but I feel like she was trying to say, I could be wrong. I'm remembering this wrong. But I feel like when she left the date with him where he said that he was committing to her, it felt like she was trying to spin it to the camera, not like, oh, that was clarity. He said that and I realized I didn't feel the same. And that has clarified to me that I really like Alex. Instead, she tried to spin it like, that was a weird thing for him to do. I don't think he should have said that to anyone, not only just me. Like, it seemed like she was trying to blame him for even saying it.
Well,
Because that's what she
feel
says
like,
to Alex. She was like, I was mad. It's like, I don't think that he should have tried to commit to me while still dating Meg. And it's
well,
like, you have to at some point. What is he going to do? Break up with Meg first? I mean, maybe that's what she wanted.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I remember correctly, like she was talking to Mason about the fact that, you know, her other option, I don't know if she didn't name him Alex, obviously. Her other option was giving her like affirmation, was giving her like reason to stay in there. And that's when Mason was saying all the right things. He's like, you know, I don't think I felt this way about anyone else. You're like, I really feel committed to you. Like,
and she was like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah, it really felt like it was coming from a place of fear from Mason to not lose Madison. I think Madison clocks that.
Yeah. Like, because what she's saying is like, okay, well then even with her believing that he shouldn't have said it, and then for him to take it back and be like, oh, I didn't mean to say it, like shouldn't have said it, then it's kind of like, well then why are you saying these things, especially just for the sake of saying it, because like in the context of the conversation or whatever. I just feel like I felt like that conversation with Madison and Alex was mostly stemmed from like the anger from Madison was really stemming from recognizing what kind of boyfriend Alex would be, or what kind of partner Alex would be, because I didn't think it was a sign of like the attachment style. I thought it was more so like, wait a second.
Well, when you say this guy sucks, your boyfriend's like, yeah, that guy really does suck. That sucked that he did that to you. Like, he said that, but he said it out of duress of her being like, I wish you would have said this and that. He's like, well, I'll say this and that then if that makes you feel better. But I do still think Alex is right. Like,
yeah. So when I come home to you and I say, oh my gosh, my coworker is getting on my nerves, are you gonna say, well, what did you do to get on your coworker's nerves?
You just start an argument for no reason.
Yeah.
You just be like, yeah, like that really sucks they did that to you. Like, try to relate to them, try and make them sue them and feel better. But it only served to make Madison feel like he was saying she had a wrong part in this. Like, no, you're not getting it. You're not understanding what Alex is going through. This, or Mason is going through this and that. He's almost putting it back on her, being like, you're kind of wrong in this. Don't you see where you're wrong here?
And tried to blame her for talking to Meg about it. He's like, yeah, so he told me you talked to somebody else about, you know, and that he wouldn't end up with you. And I just felt like Alex fumbled this so bad.
Okay. Yes, he did. He did fumble it.
We get it, Mary. You want to see if Alex is available. We get it.
Look, he did fumble it, but I feel like this is the kind of fumble that you see a lot in relationships.
But a more committed relationship would have that conversation better and be like,
well, yes,
this is what you
right.
did.
And that's why I think this was a breakdown of communication style more than anything else. Because for me, I felt like there was a point in the conversation where it's like, hey, this thing happened with Mason. I didn't like it. And he was like, oh, shoot, because I'm hearing from Mason's side that it was a little different. Oh, that's unfortunate. I can see, I'm sorry that, you know, that you felt this way. And I kind of feel like that's where it could have ended, and they could have circled back to this at some future time.
No,
but instead it just kept going on on and on and on and on, where she's like, yeah, but he hurt me so bad. Like, I don't think he did. And I realized that I don't think her issue was really with Mason hurting her. It was with Alex not standing up for her. But then stop saying that your issue is with, because I think that's where he's just like, he was probably being like, I don't understand why we're still talking about this guy that you don't like.
Because
like,
he didn't understand. And that's why she's like, no, she's like,
it was bad. It was not a good conversation.
That's why she kept bringing it up, because it's like, wait a second, you're not hearing me. I'm literally telling you. And then Alex goes, oh, well, I guess I wasn't there. So I don't know. I'm telling you how I feel. And you're saying you weren't there because you have your bestie's opinion about it. Like,
well, and at one point she tells him literally, like, I don't want to keep talking about it. And he keeps talking about it. Like, he keeps bringing it up. And then here's my big issue with Alex. Alex pretty much by the end of this says, if you're not going to communicate exactly the way I want you to communicate, then we're not going to do this together. And we can never have any fights. Like,
can you promise that we will not argue?
Yeah, like that's basically what he was saying. That's my big issue with Alex and him ending things. Because she literally says to him, like, okay, I can promise you I will do my best to communicate with you, in the moment, but I might need like 5 minutes to calm down. He's like, nope, not good enough. Like, we can't keep doing this.
And I hate to be, look, I really hate to be I don't like the term devil's advocate. I hate to be the person bringing up the alternate point of view, but I think again, they're not a good couple. The way I will say this again, this is not a case of one person being bad or good or deserving of relationships or not. They're just not a couple that meshes well in that style. Alex needs to be in a relationship where there's very little things going to be happening that are going to be confusing him, where he needs a very straightforward kind of situation, which might be impossible. It might be, wanting too much, but I think she said, this is not the only thing she mentioned. She literally said early on, like, sometimes I just shut down and disappear for days. And that was probably a little overwhelming for him. And I think that, she needs a different type of person and he needs a different type of person, clearly. So I just don't think this one conversation was the problem. I think it was a culmination of their communication style.
I think they were on a trajectory to at least get engaged. Like, but
they would have found this. The rest of the season would have been this kind of conversation.
Yes,
I do. Earlier in the season.
I think we can totally agree that they are not each other's person.
No.
Yes.
But
I think for me, the big picture was, I didn't think Alex was really that into this at any point, because there were multiple points in this where, like, when we think about the avoidant style, he was like, ooh, I don't know if I can deal with that. Like, I really got to think about it. Like, it didn't really seem like
he harped on that a little bit too much before Mason even became an issue. I was like, wait, I remember one of their earlier conversations, it was like after when he found out she was avoidant, it was like, oh, everything's great, but I've had exes that had an avoidant attachment style. I'm like, is that solely what you're basing your future spouse on, is their attachment style? Just, like, hey, I'm only going to be with Enneagram 4s. If you're not a 4, I'm out.
Yeah, he's very strict about his guidelines about what he wants. And if anything is strengths, like, goes outside those boundaries, he's not into it. And he's like, I don't know if I can deal with the avoidant lifestyle or the avoidant attachment style, but we can see. And Matt's is like, oh, no, please, I can show you that I'm not avoidant. Please, please, please. He's like, okay, we'll give it a shot. I don't know. And then she comes and tells him, like, it's you. It's not Mason. It's you. You're my guy. He's like, okay, cool, great. And then this whole thing with Mason pops
up.
But
you were wrong with Mason.
He's like, ooh, I can't deal with this. Sorry, babe. Look, you saying we might have a fight? We might have a fight in this relationship? Oh, I can't do fights. I can't do that.
Okay, but being a person who has been in bad relationships, to where if I was on a date with someone and I start feeling like, ooh, this is similar to my ex, I also skedaddle. And I'm like, no, honestly, don't even want to try. Don't even want to try in something that might be like that, which is, this is a flaw in myself. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm single for a reason. But so I don't go on a blind dating show when you have really, really strict criteria. But also, I did appreciate, and I wrote this down early, I appreciated that during that conversation that they were both very honest and upfront, and they weren't trying to downplay how they felt about their issues with each other. Like, it did feel like he was like, oh, the avoidant thing, that's scary to me. And then she was like, well, I'm going to be honest, and this is how it is and stuff. And I appreciated that they both were talking in a very like open, logical kind of way, just coming from different sides on that. I already know I'm going to get so much hate for standing up.
No hate. That online is going to be nice.
And again, he could be terrible, but I just feel like I see some of myself in this of like, if I start to see something that I'm nervous about, I also probably would not have I think that you could feel good. And then when you're at that point of making that proposal decision, which is what it felt like we were at that point in the show, it was pretty close to the end. I also feel like I could be like, you know what? Shoot, actually, I'm nervous about this. And I don't think that this is right.
Yeah. I mean, I also felt like Madison was more fun when she was with Mason over Alex. It almost like we saw a different Madison when she was dating Mason compared to Alex. But even with Mason, you're going between Madison, which felt like a pretty normal like relationship between Meg. Like, let's just talk about all of the conspiracies out there. And that's what we're going to bond on.
But I felt like we were getting the classic thing with Madison and Mason where it's like, oh, we just connect because we both are flirty and we both think each other is sexy in the way we're talking. And we're only talking about stuff like that. That's what it felt like to me. It's like, yeah, they probably would have been a normal couple, but I could see why Madison was gravitating toward Alex, who probably was giving a little more depth there. I think that was probably I think sometimes you can kind of get in this rut with the pods of like feeling comfortable with a particular style of communication with someone and then only getting that deep. And so I think Madison was having a hard time getting deeper with Mason because they had already started at such a like flirty level. Not that Mason and Meg were any deeper. They just talked about completely different things.
Completely different
Mason
things.
And Meg it felt like they had fun the whole time, and really felt like Mason was like, hey, she's fun. I like talking to her. I'll keep her around for a while.
I can talk to her about stuff I can't talk to other people about.
Yeah, and they had like, you know, every time they would talk to each other, like, oh, I feel like this is my twin, my other person, just in a female form. But is that the person you want to be in a relationship with? Is this the person you want to marry? I don't know. I don't know if Mason felt that way. I don't know if Mason. I think Meg was always Mason's number 2. That's the feeling I got.
Yeah.
And she felt that throughout the way too. There was moments where she was like, that conversation did not make me feel like I was his number 1.
Every other time she would come back into the lounge, she'd be like, this feels great. And the next time she'd be like, you know, I don't know. Like there's so much back and forth in how Meg was feeling. And I think she let, you know, there are people in this season that really let the lounge politics get in their head. And I think Meg was definitely one of those because, you know, she was like, well, it sounds like Madison's talking about my guy, and sounds like he's feeling strong about her. I don't know. And then she would go into the date with Mason and be like fretting about that, and he would have to try and reassure her. And I think that really just kind of got in her head.
As David would call it, the girl drama.
Oh, well, don't even.
I'm not even trying to get into the girl drama.
Yeah, well, we'll get to. Don't worry, I'm not going to be on all the guys' sides.
You females and all your drama.
Oh my god, but. Yeah, I think the thing with Mason was just like, like I said, I kind of nothinged Mason. Like he was fine. He didn't really stand out to me one way or the other. I do think that it was so obvious that Madison was his number, or like was above Meg on his list for so long that I'm not sure why he remained dating Meg for so long, unless it was like day 4 or 5. Like we just don't know. But assuming that it was pretty late into the process, unless his plan was, oh, if Madison dumps me, then I'll just go with Meg.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Which is not a good prospect for proposals in life and marriage. But I get why you do that on a dating show. I get why you do that.
If Mason does really like Meg, but he does like Madison more, and Madison dumps him, is it that big a problem to be like, okay, I'll just go with Meg. I love Meg. Meg's great.
I don't think it's a problem as long as you're extremely open with Meg about this is the situation. This is how I feel. I would still really like to pursue something with you.
You're going to tell Meg she's the number 2?
Yeah, I think that
no one likes hearing the number 2, Mary.
No, I'm not saying that Meg would like it. I'm saying that I don't think Mason would have done anything wrong to do that. Wow. I think most likely that results in them going, yeah, we're not going to get engaged. And then they go home and they decide maybe they're going to, you know, meet up and date and see if it works out. I just don't think, keeping your options open, exploring multiple things in this dating show is fine. The other person is going to be completely in the rights to be upset about it and not want to continue dating you, though. So I think everybody did what I think everybody was gonna do in this scenario.
But here's the question. We've spent about roughly like 30 minutes talking about this quad because there was probably these four got most of the screen time.
So
like
much.
if we did a counter, if there were a Love is Blind data Instagram account out there that could cover the amount of time that was spent on Alex, Madison, Mason, and Meg, it was enough to make you think that we would be following them this season.
At least one of them. Well, I don't think this is the last we've seen of this group.
Right.
I think we will see them later.
What is the payoff? So we've gotten to know them. We understand the dynamics. What is the payoff? Is that we're just going to continue to see them like
is that
as
everyone
the Pod
else
Squad?
who's on the show is relatively boring and they will either quickly break up or they will get married, and so we need them in the Pod Squad segments, and that those segments will be mostly about these people.
Yeah, I think we'll see them mostly at the get-togethers. It seems like from what the preview showed that Mason and Meg are coming into the get-together together. So the assumption is that maybe after they left the experiment, they
like I said
sought each other out. So that seems like maybe the issue, because I really do think that Meg was influenced by Madison and probably other girls in the lounge to encourage her to go ahead and break things off with Mason, because she wasn't sure if how much he was into her. And I think going outside of the pods and being like, oh, okay, like we're actually really cool with each other. We actually bond. We actually get down on the same level. I think would be good for them to decide they actually do want to be together.
Because I think it is totally understandable for her to say, I don't want my proposal story and my engagement story to be, oh, you were the second choice and I wanted to be on a TV show. But I think it's completely fine to date someone after that.
Yeah, you don't look like a fool on TV accepting this guy's proposal, and all the while they're like, Meg's, she has no idea what he's saying about her in the lounge or anywhere else. Like, oh, she's my number two. She's like,
right.
But to be like, but to have the stance of like, I'm going to choose myself and take myself out of the experiment and then go see what you can experience on the outside. I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. One last thing about hypocrite Madison.
By you, I am Team Madison over here.
No,
I'm not
anti-Madison. I just think here's the thing. Let's say that all of this stuff about having a number one and having a number two happened within the first couple days. Madison realized, actually, I'm leaning more toward Alex, so I'm going to break things up with Mason, which opens up Mason to say, oh, I need to pivot. Madison was my number one, but I also really like Meg because it's still early in the process. So now I can just go full steam ahead with Meg. And yeah, Meg was initially his number two, but I don't think it's a bad thing to be initially someone's number two and then grow into their number one throughout the rest of the process. It's only a bad thing if we're like on day 9 and he was like way up here with Madison and down here with Meg, and then Madison breaks it off. Why did Madison wait so late to break it off with him? If she's mad about him, Mason dating both of them, she should be equally mad at herself for dating both Alex and Mason for that long. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think she was ever mad at him for dating both of them. That's why
she shouldn't have gone to Meg and made it seem that way. I think that was a little bit of a I'm upset by this thing. Yeah, but she was like, I'm upset by this thing that happened, and so I'm gonna go try and screw him over and screw her over, honestly. I don't know.
If that were the first time they talked, absolutely. But the fact that they had already had a conversation about it, it wasn't like, okay, well, I'm just going to step out of it. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to tell her like I was his number. It only ended because I ended it.
But there's another couple that ends up together in this who initially had multiple options, broke it off, and went with another person. We don't know who their initial number one was. I think it's very unlikely that most of these people go in day one, know who they want to be with, and then stick with them all through the end. Mm-hmm. It's not often you go on a date with someone and know day one that you love them. It takes a little while to grow. Right. I'm just saying, would we be mad at Mason and Meg for being together if this had all happened earlier in the process, even if she was his number two pretty early on?
Would we be mad? No, I would be mad.
I would like them like that. I felt like they would be fine together if they could make it work.
Yeah. So I think it was really just the longevity of the situation that was the problem with all of them. We've talked about them too much.
Yeah. Well, we do see that Madison's going to have pink hair, so that'll be an interesting plot twist.
Fun.
So wait a second. Well, now we'll definitely know who that is.
Yeah, couldn't have done that before the pods.
Right. One couple that did get engaged, that was the first proposal, was somebody that we didn't learn very much about, but Joey and Monica. These two, we got very little coverage on before we eventually got him saying, "Will you be engaged with me?" Which I thought was an interesting way to ask.
And there was no flowery build up. There was no like, I wrote you a letter. Let me read it to you. It was just like, hey, want to get married?
Well, there probably was, but they just probably didn't see it because we got a total of about 10 minutes of screen time of them.
Yeah,
right.
I think if there was something longer, they would have shown it to us, because this was just like all right, cool. You want to get married? Cool, let's get married. And then there was really nothing much of value or substance that they talked about in the limited segments they had.
Who does he sound like? It's a cartoon character, but I can't think of who.
I feel like he reminds me of Shane.
Shane?
From season 2.
Shane.
Oh.
You want me to go
Shane
all the way
and
back?
Shayna.
Oh, yeah. Shane.
Interesting. I don't know who it is that I'm thinking of. But here's what I'll say about them. When they got to the meetup portion, what do we call that? The reveal?
The reveal,
portion?
Yeah.
That was probably the most giddy, excited, happy, cute one we've seen in a while.
She was all over the place. I was not sure if that was
nerves,
giddy excitement, or like, oh my god, what did I do? What have I done? This guy is not what I want. And it's just like she was just nervous about that.
She said she loved his hair.
Yeah, it felt cute, but in like it felt awkward, but in a cute way, as opposed to awkward in an awkward way.
Yeah, these two are going to be interesting because it's not often that we're just really learning about people at the getaway. But that's what
it's almost like maybe we should have had 6 episodes in the pods to get to know them.
Right. They couldn't find 5 minutes that they could carve out of the people that didn't make it to learn a little bit more about Joey and Monica, who are very present in the next time on. So I'm like, we're getting a lot of
we're only going to have 4 couples, so we got they're going to have some time.
Maybe we'll get flashbacks. I don't know.
Were they just that in tune where it was just like, there is not even going to be worth showing them? They never had other options. They were in on each other since day one.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. We just didn't see.
Like, I'm scrolling
they do
through my
seem
notes,
very similar.
And there's just not much here. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So he seems goofy. He was homeschooled. He said he's good with money. They bonded over, like, they both had a story about doing a lot for a family member. Like that he seems to be kind of looking out for his mom a lot. And then she is in between jobs because she's helping her grandmother who's losing her memory. Like that. Those are both very cute moments.
I thought that was all I have. Interesting story she told was that like she was house sitting for her boyfriend who went on spring break. And then he comes back and just ends it with her without an explanation.
She has no idea why.
He needed someone to watch her cat. He's like, I could break up with her now and have no cat sitter. Or I could get a cat sitter and break up with her when I come back. What would you do in that situation, Asia? What would you do?
I'm sorry. I'm demanding an explanation. I will not leave this house until you explain why you're ending it.
I will not relinquish your cat.
Something happened on spring break, clearly.
I will not relinquish your cat until you explain to me what the issue is in this relationship.
I'm either leaving with an explanation or a new cat. Pick one. So I think it'll be interesting to learn more about them, but
they seem good together. They seem like their energies match.
Yeah.
From what I can think of, like they are the only couple we see that we know are going to be at the altar because they show them full face at the altar.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting. It'll be like some of the issues we saw were like he has OCD. And it's kind of severe, it seems like. That was one thing. I think another thing was like he usually likes blondes or something like that when they're talking to the family. So I don't know what that issue will be. I hope he's not like another Steven from last season. We're like, oh my gosh, this is like a really good guy. And then you find out he's like really weird. Like
who's Steven? I have no memory.
With Monica.
Interestingly, with Monica, yeah. He was the guy that was cheating on her, like sexting with some other.
He did the sleep study.
Oh yeah, the sleep study guy.
Yeah,
it's all coming back.
Wild. But yeah, I mean, I think
they're cute. I hope they don't disappoint.
Yeah, we'll spend way more time talking about them on future weeks, but the show didn't give us much to go off of this time, so we'll keep it moving.
When I think of everyone on the cast, I'm just like, I can't think of like anything of substance for most of these people. It's so bizarre to me that we spend so much time with them, and for me, a lot of them are still just blank slates. It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we'll have more to discuss here. I think there's going to be some interesting topics here. This next grouping of people, so we do get to focus on, you know, some melanin in this drop, but they're all
Barely any.
on the same slide. We have Britt and Virginia going after Devin.
And look, all I know is those two engaged couples that we didn't see anything about. If they were people of color at all, I am very upset with this show.
I know. I'm just like, everyone I was squinting, looking in the background. I'm like, well, where are they dating?
There was a black man very late into the process, because
Yes.
when we get late, we only see like a select amount of people in those lounges.
Yep.
And there was a black guy for a lot of that time that wasn't really named a lot. And I don't know if he was one of them or what, but yeah, that would be crazy
dating?
if they chose not to show that. Brittany was around for, I was not sure how the timing worked out, because Brittany stayed around for a good long time.
She sure did. Maybe she was dating someone else.
Yeah, maybe Devin wasn't her
Devin
number
and
one.
someone else.
Yeah, maybe she had other
Well, we
connections
didn't
besides
see
Devin.
it. Maybe it was the mystery guy.
Yeah. So yes. Okay. So let's talk about Devin and Brittany.
This is the
I even
basketball
caught Devin
trio.
calling her Brittany.
Yeah, maybe she was just like, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Just call me Brittany if you want to call me
She said,
Brittany. I don't care.
I'm sure
I
she
don't
gets
care.
tired.
I did that to be cute. You can actually call me Brittany. Everyone back home calls me Brittany.
Mhm.
I thought it was very interesting that they had so much in common, right?
Yes.
Like the basketball stuff, it felt like, okay, this is strong. And it felt like they were just like comfortable talking to each other and everything. But the biggest thing for them was when she finally reveals about her sexuality and how she has dated women in the past. But she didn't see marriage with a woman. Like she saw marriage with a man in her future. And his response was less than ideal. It was rooted in if it would have been amazing if Britt had responded and said, so Devin goes, oh, okay. So just because like you like women, if you're with me, that means you'll be with me, right? Like she's like affirming him that like if we're together, we're together. Like that,
she's like,
it doesn't
I'm monogamous.
matter. Exactly. She's like, I'm monogamous, and so he goes, okay, that makes me come more comfortable knowing like when you're with me, you're with me. Britt could have said, okay, you're attracted to women. Do I need to be worried about you being with other women?
Yeah, it's a wild stereotype trope that because you are bisexual, that you are this person that will sleep around with everyone and anyone, no matter the
at
gender,
any time,
at
in
any
relationship
time.
or not.
And the order of operations was outstanding here, right? As in terms of entertainment. Bad thing to say, but Devin gives her the story of how he was physically hurting. He couldn't figure out why. He ended up taking like he said he ended up taking like 20 ibuprofen a day in order to even just kind of walk and play basketball and whatnot. And he talked about how he really struggled with this, how he turned to God for it, this, that, and the other. He was so worried about being judged. And Brittany comes with the perfect, like, the perfect response to that. Like, you should never judge yourself. You should never let anyone judge you for it. You had your struggles and you got through it, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, well, basically, like, since you're being vulnerable, I'll return the favor.
Open up. Yes.
Yeah. She opens up, tells him about her sexuality, and immediately we see look on his face. She doesn't. The look on his face just like, ooh, like red flag. Like you just see red flag.
We see on his side, he's like rubbing his hands together so vigorously, like he is like really trying to figure out how to process this information and how to respond.
Yeah, the look on his face is just not great, and his response is just even not greater because like he starts the process like, so like, what does this mean? Like if you're with me, like what does that mean? What are you just with me? Like, yeah, dummy. Like, what do you think is gonna happen? I'm just be like out hooking up with women and not and just like his response was so like it was ignorant is what I call it. Like,
Very ignorant.
It really was. And to not have opened up your mind to realize that just because someone is bisexual does not mean they are promiscuous.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And there are obviously so many different levels and tiers and degrees when it comes to your sexuality, that it was interesting to me that she was even saying, basically, I've always pictured my marriage and my future to be with a guy, but, and then filling in the blanks, I've also found women attractive and have either dated them or whatever, you know. We don't know the seriousness to the relationship she had with a woman. Although she said basically when it got to the point where the woman was seeing a future with her, she was like, "Oh no, actually, that's not where I'm at." So that's what she said, and it's so interesting to me that, like, I don't know, it's just like, Devin, you're attracted to women.
Yeah.
So don't you think someone else could also be attracted to women? Why does that matter? I don't know. And you only seem to see this conversation happen a lot. You know what? No, I take it back. I was going to say when it's this direction, but season 1, we had the same scenario.
Yeah,
we just got it after the proposal.
It's
and
just
the way he tried to I guess quote unquote save it. He's like, so you would say you're not interested in women anymore,
right?
That's what you would say.
So
she's
you
like,
did not.
She's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Actually,
tell me you didn't hear a thing we just talked about without telling me you didn't hear a thing.
It's just a switch, so she can just turn on and off. Like, nope, not interested in women anymore.
He's like, but no. Hear me out, Britt. You're dating me right now, so you think women are ugly? Like, I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out like why he was trying to come to his own conclusion when she's telling you what it is. Like, she's telling you exactly where she is and how she feels. And that's why biphobia is a thing. Like, people think that people who are bisexual either are confused or they're really, it's just confused because people are like, it's either one way or another. You like one gender or you like the other gender. There's no spectrum to it or anything. And the fact that she's being open about it and sharing this with him, instead of approaching it with a level of understanding it, he's trying to twist it into his own understanding, which is like, I'm so glad it ended the way it did. And not necessarily him deciding, wait, I'm uncomfortable with this. Because the moment she shared it and he reacted that way, I said, oh, he's not that, like, that is totally, he's not picking her. But I'm glad she chose not to pick him. Because, and even if she didn't have any other options, or that's how it was shown that she didn't have other options, even if she did, I'm glad that she made that decision, because that was not the desired answer. That showed no level of being open to understanding. And he said like, oh, I've just never dated somebody who's been attracted to other, but you've dated women who've been into men. Like, you're automatically thinking it's an issue with commitment when that's not the thing.
And even if he thinks he hasn't, he probably has.
He probably has.
Let's just say 100%. So I think, because I'm sure people are going to say, oh, like, he's allowed to not want to date someone who's bi. That's fine. But if you know that, you just need to say that too, like, and kind of move along. It was weird the way he was trying to connect the dots. And I think the truth is he really liked Brittany and then realized he wasn't going to be okay with this, and then was just trying to find a way to make it work for him.
He was trying to make it okay.
Rewrite her story, which was like,
he was trying to make it okay with himself to be like, but I wouldn't have to worry about you with other women if we got together. Right.
And
that's what he's saying.
If he's never dated someone that he has known was bi, and then and he needed to take some time, go think about it, and then he came back and he's like, you know what? Actually, I got this. I'm down with this. Then that's one thing. Not what happened, but
like I just said, I'm glad that Brittany was the one that was in control and was like, listen,
me too.
I just don't think I'm happy. I was happy with your response. Your response really like upset me. It was not really the response I was looking for. So I just don't think this is going to work out. This is going to go any further. I was so happy because at first I was like, please don't let her like be okay with this and be like, well, I can overlook it, as so many people do with the red flags they see, and they're just like, well, I guess it's just something I'll overlook a little bit. But she came in there and was like, listen, like, I just don't think it's going to work. Now, he probably was going to come in doing the same thing, but I'm glad she was able to talk first.
Because he even came back to the men's quarters like, well, I didn't have to do a lot of the talking. She's the one that it was mostly her, so it worked out for me. And I'm like, I'm just so glad she took that power into her own hands and said, look, this is not for me. And they felt like they were talking as like homies.
Toward the end of that
conversation.
What do you think about the do you think it's a misdirect then, what's coming up on the
I think they were definitely talking about Virginia.
I think that they are going to meet and be pretty good friends, though. It seems
I think
like.
so. They both have very similar interests. They probably go and hoop a little bit. Like I think that would be something that would not be like out of the realm of possibility for them, especially since they are, they're in a cast of only them, like only a few of them. You know what I mean? So I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So that was I'm glad that they included that, because those types of conversation and just to show just how dynamic people are, and just to show like what isn't preferred in those type of conversations, and just how saying certain things can be perceived, like how Devin responded can be perceived by Brittany and how that made her feel, and just how people can be more open to conversations when they don't understand what they're hearing. But Devin does end up getting engaged to Virginia. Their issue the whole time was like that she wouldn't really open up.
Yeah, did I miss the point where she does open up? Because I feel like I missed that.
It felt like she just talked about the fact that she's had bad relationships, but she didn't really get into much of after that. She's like, a lot of men would gaslight me, this, that, the other thing. And I still don't think that she answered his question or went really that much deep. And he was just like, well,
yeah,
the only one I got now, so I guess we'll go ahead with this.
Yeah, and I was so confused because like he opens up to her, and he had even said at one point, like, oh, I feel like she's hiding something. And then they got engaged. I was like,
oh, and she's telling him like, well, I don't really get deep right away. Like it takes me a while to open up. Like, so why did you come and do this?
Why are you on here to get engaged?
Yeah, and there's so many people in this season that were like, well, I didn't expect to come here and get engaged. I didn't expect to come here and get down on one knee. Like, that's what the whole show was for. That's what this whole thing is about, man.
I came for followers.
Yeah,
who was the one girl who kept saying they're like, we're all getting engaged? Was that Meg? Somebody was doing that.
It's either Meg or Molly.
Oh, I think it was Meg.
Yeah. So it's like, I didn't expect to come here and get engaged, and Virginia's like, well, it just takes me a while to open up. So you want me to propose to you without me knowing much about you?
Yes.
Like that's what you're saying here?
Yeah.
Yeah. The answer was yes. Like
that's year 2 kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it felt like, okay, that's a desire of his, but I think he could get the vibe from a lot of their conversations that she was at a certain level of attractiveness. Like she talked about being a dancer, and like I think for an NBA, like previous NBA dancer, and I think it was just like, oh, our conversations are easy, we have fun, we laugh, like that's baseline, that's enough. Maybe we can eventually get deep, and I think he was okay with that. And the fact that Britt gave Virginia some props, she's like, I know who your other person is. I think she's an amazing woman. I think it could be like
shout out to Britt.
Yeah.
Girl.
Right. For real. For real.
And like Devin doesn't have anything to lose, right? Like,
why not?
He's getting engaged. He's not getting married right now. He's getting engaged to see if it'll work. He didn't have any other options. So
yeah, this isn't married at first sight.
Right, exactly. So I think for him, it was just like, yeah, we'll give it a shot. See if it works. You probably sound hot. I think my strategy going into Love Is Blind, just to see if they were real like me for me. Like to start like describing myself, like, do you know how to get bunions off your feet? Like, what do you think? Like, you have any good lotion for stretch marks? And it's just like see what they say. Like,
and then you're the bunion guy that everyone's talking about in the women's quarters.
That's fine. I'll find somebody that loves me for my bunions.
I will say, I was gonna say real quick, I will say the reveal, I was on the edge of my seat because I didn't know if she was attracted to him. Like she said, you have pretty eyes, I like your blazer, but it still was like he was enamored with her. Like was
he the one who was wearing the like sort of reddish burgundy-ish suit? Was that him?
That was either David or Daniel, and I don't say
David.
That because I don't
never
know
mind.
which D
never mind.
Is.
I thought it was
his had some type of shine to it.
Okay.
But she was in it, in like she was like, I don't know. It just seemed like he was the one being so nervous and talking to her, and that she was just so beautiful to him, and it just was like, usually when people go back to their side, they stand there for a second, like, whoo, she walked right out. She didn't linger at all. So I didn't know how to take that.
Yeah, I don't think we got the like confessional later of what she thought.
If those doors open up and you don't run to me, it's over.
If you don't run to Jason and immediately start talking about his bunions, he's out.
It's over. You
You want
don't
like a Ben sprint.
Yeah, don't walk to me. Like, we've been talking for the last 10 days. We're getting married. We're getting engaged. You better run,
10
girl.
days?
You better
I
run
don't
over
know.
here.
I always watch these and I'm just like, they're so awkward, and yet I would be 10 times more awkward. So I don't even know, like, walk me to the car after a first date and I don't know what to do with my hands or anything. And I'm just like, catch up with you later. Like, I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm like, did I tip my hat
later,
to you?
skater.
Bye-bye.
Later,
Finger
skater.
guns? Probably. I don't know what I'm doing.
See you later, alligator.
Yeah. Look, I have like for a long time thought that I was Schmidt, but I think I've realized that a lot of my mannerisms are very Nick. So that's where we're at.
She's talking about New Girl, everybody.
So the thing about them is, hold on, I had something. I had something to do with Devin. I feel like with them, they were very cute, and nope, I'm losing it. I had something. It was they were the ones with the grandmother's ring, right? Was this someone else? Who gave a cutting board
him
and
her
necklace?
grandmother's ring. Her
Yes.
grandmother's name is Virginia.
Was that
yes
supposed to be the proposal ring, and did it come back? That was what I was curious
Oh,
I don't
about.
think it came back. I don't remember it coming
shoot.
back. It wasn't
I
mentioned.
do on the same topic of gifts, he gifted her a cutting board that I'm like, what are you cutting on that? Garlic? Because it was
tiny.
the size of my hand.
It was very small.
It's the thought that counts, okay? It's the
got
thought
it.
that counts.
Yeah, we got a lot of gifts this time. Is this like a new segment?
I thought we've gotten gifts before. I feel like we've gotten stuff passed back and forth. What I really want in the pods is one of those things. If you go to like a hood grocery store and they got like the bulletproof thing where you can open the door, pass it through the other side, and the cashier takes it from the other side. Those are only in hood establishments.
You had the little like the bank thing where you put it in a little canister and like shoot it through to the other side.
The pneumatic tube. Yeah,
I'd like that.
I did find an article, I saw an article with the creator of the show, Chris, where he was asked about like covering the last four people, or not the first four people we talked about. So he said, when you look at the story of Madison, Alex, Mason, and Meg in the pods, we've never told a story that didn't make it out of the pods before. And I think it's really exciting to do that because people will always ask, what else happened? What else who else did they date? We can never make a show to show everything, but showing some of the other stuff that happens in the pods is just incredibly entertaining. I could probably make 30 episodes of pods and it would be fascinating.
Okay.
You made 6 here and it wasn't. So
No, but here's the thing. They were very entertaining. It is a letdown that they didn't get together, but I do agree with that. Is we do say every year, like, but what about all these other people? Well, these are the other people. These are the people who didn't get engaged. I don't like that it's at the expense of people who did get engaged, and that it's at the expense of diversity. I don't like those two things in terms of editing, especially when it comes to disproportionate editing. Because even this love triangle right here with Devin, Britt, and Virginia, we got I don't know, a tenth of the amount that we spent on those other 4 people. I think it's great to see those other 4 people, and I think that we should see people who don't get engaged. I just think that it could be montaged a bit more. It could be sped up.
Yeah, there were whole segments that you could have just deleted, and I'd have been okay.
Yeah,
and we've definitely gotten stories before of people who don't make it out of the pods.
Well, not after the pods, though, right?
Well,
like we didn't follow Leo and what's her name, Brittany, last season.
Yes, I think it was. He said he also said because he spent so much time in the pod, 6 episodes, they were able to cover 16 people. So if we look at all, like, we're gonna talk about like us here today, we're talking about 16 people. I guess previously it's like, oh, if there's 5 couples, 10, and then you may have like a couple stragglers who didn't get picked. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see what turns out with Devin and Virginia. Really didn't see much from the more to come on them in terms of like
good things. I'm rooting for them.
Yeah.
Oh, I remembered the other thing. They had a big other thing, which was they went to the same high school. And the only even slight bit of conflict was that she was a little nervous that they went to the same high school, but he's 5 years younger. However, she's 34 and he's 29. So I feel like that's not that big of an age gap when you're at that age.
Yeah. And his older sister is younger than her.
Right. We've seen 10-year age gaps. We've seen like 25 and 35 on this show. So like,
yeah. Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting with the guy being younger in terms of like levels of maturity. I wonder if there'll be anything with that. But otherwise, I don't see why they couldn't potentially make it work. So I think we don't really have much to go on at this point. Maybe if she doesn't get beat.
Was it season 6? The really tall guy who was younger?
And they're still together.
They're still together?
Milton
and Lydia.
Yeah, they are still together. They just posted something about their anniversary.
We'll go them.
Never run across aren't they in Houston?
I don't know.
I think. Or
you would know.
I know. I'm like, wait a second. I think they are.
You're the queen of Houston. You tell us.
I think they're in Houston. Okay, let's move on. We can talk about a couple who did get engaged, but this was like, really?
Yeah.
Y'all did? Let's talk about Ben and Sarah.
Sarah, aka
Claire.
Huh?
She reminds me of Claire from Big Brother.
She was like BFFs with someone else. Was it Lauren? Somebody. I think it was Lauren.
Yeah, I think so.
We saw a lot more Sarah, I feel like, chatting with Lauren in the girls' room than we saw of this relationship.
Yeah, these two were interesting because it was kind of like just highlighting all of their issues.
Yeah, it's just yet another couple where it's like, y'all have some very fundamental differences that are probably not going to work out. If they do work out, you're still going to have like quite a bit of, I don't think your friends or your family might get along kind of thing. So I don't know why we're just like going full steam ahead toward disaster.
Yeah. So in this day and age where you say, oh, it's fine if our political beliefs don't align, I think that's a problem. I think politics is such a big part of our world now. That would have been fine in, the 1990s, the early 2000s.
2014.
Right. But in 2025 or 2024 or whenever this was shot, to say that politics doesn't matter or it doesn't matter for different political views, the different political parties could not be further apart. They've never been further apart than they are now. And in my mind, your political party says a lot about you. And I feel like that's a big thing in this relationship here.
And the fact that it wasn't even, I mean, let's be honest, it is deep down a difference with political parties between the two of them. The way he tried to play it off was more like, oh, well, I just don't really do politics.
And that's not acceptable.
Which is that's a code for Yes,
yeah. That's what we call code. Yeah, I just think that this is not going to work out.
I just want to know what it was, because the moment she brings up the importance of 2020 and how George Floyd and that presidency affected her and how she thinks about social issues, and for him to say, I just stay out of it. Doesn't that feel like y'all are in completely different books?
Yes.
Like, it's not a level, like she even said in her confessional, I can't teach you values.
Yes. And that is where the relationship should have ended.
Yeah,
I was so confused when we basically didn't hear even anything else about this again.
I mean, if someone has to assure you they will be okay with your gay sister, like maybe that's not the guy you should be going for. Like, no, it's fine. She just can't touch me. Like, don't let her touch me. But it's fine if I'm around her. That's okay. I'll be okay with it. If
this is her best friend. Sure. She says, she's like, this is my sister who is like the closest person to me.
And even for him to like when they. She presented in one conversation, then they had another date, and he's like, I just want you to know, I am okay with that community. It was like,
Yeah.
Okay, believable.
Yeah, there was a phrase he said at one point. Oh, what? I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was like people like that or something, and I was just like, ooh. I don't remember. I could be quoting wrong, but it was something along those lines. It was like this, like very odd. Plus, she's cool. She games. She played against Red versus Blue. Like,
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
I was like, whoa, that's awesome.
Impressive. Yeah.
Wait,
Like,
what
that's
does
a
that
fun
mean?
fact. Oh, Asia. Oh. I just can't teach people
know-
gaming history.
You young child. You sweet innocent child.
I'll
They kind of
Google
explained it in the thing. Like Red versus Blue was like was big in the gaming
was big.
community.
Mm.
They had like, you know, they had different like little movies and stuff. They were
Yeah,
big stars.
they would make
at the
like
time.
little web series videos. I think was
Interesting.
I'm trying to remember. I think Red vs. Blue was under the like Rooster Teeth.
Yeah, I think so. So they were big in the gaming industry, and for her and her sister at what they say 13 and 8 or something like that to go in there
Yeah.
and beat these professional gamers was quite a.
Well, we don't know that we don't know that they beat them. They
what
might
she
have
said?
let them win.
Oh, well, maybe, I don't know.
But still, they got to play with them, which is very cool.
See, did I like blink or something? I don't have a single note about anything about that.
Well, because you probably had no clue what they were talking about.
It's
So
like,
you're like,
yeah, it was like-
whatever.
It was on their it was on their second date. She was talking about the fact that, you know, she had played Xbox a lot. She played Halo and Call of Duty and all that
Oh,
stuff.
see, I didn't even.
This is after he describes his upbringing as a child, which is like the most like apple pie American thing he ever described. He's like, I'd watch Price is Right in the morning. I'd hang out with some kids in the neighborhood. I'd eat Eggos while watching Price is Right. I'd eat pizza.
We went to
go
Little League.
We went to Little League, and then we go play outside all day. Like,
And
oh
we'd
my
have
God.
IHOP or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It
Yeah,
was cute. I mean, like,
was
who
cute,
doesn't
but-
love that?
Yeah.
Right.
With your white picket fence. Yeah, it was just so weird that we basically went to that. We had the conversation about politics, and then they say they love each other and they propose. Like, I don't know what happened.
And she keeps saying that she can't teach him values,
And she's
that's
not
what
sure
she's
how
worried
this is gonna-
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's constantly talking to other people about it, and then he asks her married. He's like, "Yeah, great, let's go." Like,
Yeah, because even when he
mean-
proposed, didn't she ask him something else? Or maybe they didn't bring it back up. But I
don't
think this is a big deal. I mean, she talked about it
Well, she
in
at
the women's quarters.
yeah, at the proposal, she does tell him like, "Listen, I'm going to need reassurance from you about
Yes,
the
that.
social causes." He says, "Well, you know, it's not your responsibility to teach me that stuff. I know that, and I think we'll come on the same side on most things." I was like,
He's like,
"Most
yeah,
things?"
he's like, that's the right answer. And that is correct. It is not her job. Like, he has to want to learn. But that's also, if that's somebody who doesn't want to learn, that's an easy thing to say, to be like,
Yeah.
hey, don't worry about it. You don't have to pressure me.
Yeah.
I'll figure out how to learn about it myself.
Like,
quote
it's not your
unquote.
it's not your responsibility to teach me that stuff. Later turns into, don't lecture me about that stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm. Here is best case scenario for them. Best case scenario is he truly does, despite his family or upbringing or whatever, that he truly does come down aligned with her on all of these things, but that he just hasn't been vocal about it, and that they together grow and learn and everything's great. That's best case scenario. I think what Jason just said is much more likely the scenario.
Exactly.
Which is actually he doesn't care to educate himself, feels like it's her job to do that or something, and then just doesn't actually share a lot of those same values.
And I don't know if that turns into, well, you know, we'll agree to disagree. We just won't talk about any of that stuff in our relationship. Which, if you're living in America, I mean, maybe that comes from a place of privilege within him, right? Like he has that privilege to not have to worry about any of that stuff, to put his head in the sand and not think about something.
Like,
I think
that
he
has
even
nothing
mentioned
to do with me.
And what's weird is, like, I know couples, most of them who are a lot older, and like Jason was saying, you know, got together at a time that was different in politics, but who are very, very opposite in their opinions, but somehow still work. But they're at least shared in their passion for like politics, and they're aligned on some things, but you know, whatever. I know people are like that. I think that the real weird thing here is just that she's like, I have these strong opinions, and he's got like nothing. He's
Yeah.
just like, I don't
'Cause
care about it. And it's like, that feels like more of a conflict.
Right. Like he's like, I don't care. And also, do you need your partner to believe everything you need? And she's like, no, but I also think we should share in basic human rights. Like
He's like, huh, interesting. Like,
he's like, I
he,
don't care too much about
Love
that.
that.
he won't even take a positive stance on anything. He won't even be like, yeah, I definitely don't think black people should be murdered in the streets. He doesn't say anything like that. It's like he's like, well,
Right.
we'll see. I'll think about it. I'll look into it.
He's
So
like,
that's
it
kinda
doesn't
his
affect
answer.
me.
Yeah. And Ben is 27. At
Oh.
27, I mean,
I did not realize he was as young as that. Okay.
That's-
Wow.
does
that's
look
young,
older.
but it's not young enough.
No,
where you
it's
should
not. It's
Yeah.
not that young. But
you should not
how
have
old is she?
opinions.
I don't know.
She is 28.
Oh, okay. So they're closer in age.
They're close in
But
age.
there were a lot more people in their 30s than I expected. But then again, there were a lot of people who didn't get together, so it doesn't matter.
If Ben was like 15, I'd be like, okay, he's a kid. What? Why is he 15 on Love Is Blind? I don't know, but like, I would kind of understand.
Yeah.
if he was that age of like, I don't know, I don't look into it. I'm a kid, but he's
Yeah.
27. Like, he should have opinions about things. He should
And-
know about things and stand up for what he believes in. It just seems like he doesn't
Right.
believe in anything right now.
And if this story was like two people who both have lived very privileged lives, don't really have the ability to feel like they don't need to get involved or have an opinion on this, and they were together, well, we probably wouldn't have even heard about this because they probably wouldn't have even brought it up. But that would be one thing. But again, I'm just so
Yeah.
confused over the fact that she seems to have such strong feelings. I don't know why they're still together. And I just have to believe that this was 2% of their conversation, and there was 98% of really, really great stuff that we didn't see, or like things that they at least felt like were really great things about each other.
Yeah, this really dominated their storyline the whole way through.
Yeah.
It did. So I think I was like shocked that they actually got engaged. I will say they did have a lot of physical chemistry. They couldn't stop kissing. They were all over
Yeah.
each other. I was like, okay, they are very physically attracted to each other. What is going to happen once they start having these conversations again
Right.
about the world? So I don't know. I think it's going to be very interesting, but I feel like at a baseline, the physical attraction is there. At least they have that. But
Like if I didn't know anything else about them and didn't see any of them together in the pods and only saw their meetup, it was very cute. He's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm on the first date with the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I see us standing together and I can picture it all, our future, our wedding invitations, our Christmas cards. Oh my God, was there a lot of talk about Christmas cards in this show? And I'm like, it's February, kind of past that.
look, that is very true. I literally got this Buc-ee's Christmas sweater and wore it once this season. So I was like,
Gotta pull it
perfect
back
excuse to wear it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I on the next time on, we do see him sitting down with like her parents and them bringing up how he goes to church every Sunday. And then that's really about it. We didn't really get much of them in regards to the drama. Like I said, a lot of it was focused on Joey and Monica. So I don't know. Maybe they could be a surprise, and he actually is open to learning, and he hits it off with her sister, and they become best friends. We'll see.
I mean, like I said,
I think if that was the case, they would not have hit it so hard on these pod episodes. I think we're in for a devastation.
Yeah, we'll see. I do too. Let's move on to the last love triangle that there was. We had David, Lauren, and Molly. Now, this was very interesting because similar to the Meg, Madison, Mason triangle, there was a loud participant in this, right? Where Meg would come back loudly proclaiming how she was doing with Mason. In this situation, it was Molly, and Lauren was hush hush about dating David. It was very interesting because I couldn't really get a good read on why either one of them would be his number one.
Y'all are fighting over this man? this man is what you're fighting over. And David is the one where we got the introduction of like he was just rude to everyone. He's like, what's wrong with you? Why are you here? Like, okay, you think that's cute, but it's really not cute. Like,
this is the person who I texted the two of you about when we were watching them and said, I don't understand why there's a person who has such obvious red flags and yet people are fighting over them. It's not just the really bad opening lines.
Yes.
It's the continuing to bring it up over and over.
Yeah.
It's the like because it wasn't just that line. What was the other one that he said? He kept saying,
what's wrong with you? There also
what's wrong with you?
OnlyFans.
It was the when someone said they were 30 and he said, oh, or over 30, and he said, oh, so you're no longer attractive, or
that
something
was
like
Lauren.
That like, to me, I would have walked out the door and never talked to that person again, because I don't think that's funny as a joke. like I just think that's like the kind of person who makes that joke just ain't for me, you know? Apparently,
especially if you're not face to face.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you can't read that type of humor over a pod.
No, I mean, I think like no, I'm sorry, David. Yeah, no.
And why
it's a no for me, dog.
Why do we spend so much time learning about his inability to read?
It's not. Was he the one who had this? Who was the person who had the story about writing an essay? Was that him, or was it someone else? Yeah.
And he got
it's not cute to say that you signed up for a class just to get a good, like, whatever, get a good GPA,
it was easy to pass. Yeah.
And that you didn't read the book, wrote it. But here's how that story is good. I didn't read the book, but I crushed it so much at the essay that I still got an A, and everyone was blown away. Well, but even then, that's not that good of a story. But the fact that you got a 6,
it was like he was getting off on telling people how horrible he was. Like, he would tell people, like, you know, I had a problem in the past where I had no integrity, and I'm working on that. not like I totally have integrity now. He's like, I'm still working on getting more integrity. I'm like, why should anyone be attracted to you? Why do you have 2 people fighting over you?
I think people don't understand that there's a big difference between being self-deprecating and that humor and making yourself actively look bad. Like, because I went on a date with a guy once who, as I guess they thought it was somehow a bragging point, talked about how he didn't have that many friends, didn't get along with people, didn't like his mom, and made his roommates so mad that they moved out. And I'm like, wait, I'm sorry. What part of this is a positive? All feels pretty negative to me.
Yeah, he strikes me as somebody who saw that Love is Blind was casting. He was like, that'd be cool to do, but is in no position to be settling down, because he just, I don't know if it's a matter of maturity or if it's a matter of just like, you know, like how there's somebody for everybody, and he's just that quirky that like, no, that he needs somebody who thinks that stuff is funny, who has like just the right level of humor.
Yeah.
Because it just became like, while we're trying to figure this out, we're trying to figure out this dynamic, which like Lauren had some like mean girl tendencies happening, because why is your default with Molly to be like, oh, Molly knows that I'm dating David, so she's doing this just to get under my skin, rather than realizing that David is just reassuring both of them. Like, what are you talking about, Lauren? And she's like, well, maybe Molly's just doing this because she's being manipulative. Yeah, that's it. That's who the true villain in this story. But when we finally see like what is really making David choose between Lauren and Molly, it became all about his ego. Like, he told Lauren, you make me feel important, but told Molly, why aren't you more upset that I'm choosing Lauren?
And the way the breakup between Dave and Molly happened, I was totally on the Molly side of this, because he was like, he's like, I just don't know if I can do this. I don't know if you know, if I can choose you. And she's like, so are you breaking off with me? He's like, well, I don't. And Molly called out. It's like, it sounds like you want me to be the one to break off with you.
Yes.
He's like, what? No, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he goes to Laura, like, and she had the nerve to tell me that I was trying to get her to break it off with me. Like, you really kind of were.
She tried to flip it on me. Flip what? You were telling her you're choosing Lauren.
He comes in there with Molly blubbering like, "Oh, I've had such a rough night. I've had such a rough day. I don't know if I can do this. I have so many emotions, and I feel like I have a really strong connection with Lauren, and I just don't know what to do." To get Molly to be like, "Well, it sounds like maybe you don't want to do this." He's like, "Is that what it sounds like? Is that what you think we should do? You think we should break up?" She's like, "Well, that's what it sounds like you're saying." He's like, "If that's what you want, go ahead." Basically, that's what happened.
Yeah. It was odd, this whole thing. Once again, girls, stand up. Why are you? I would have been out the door so fast with this guy.
Especially because Lauren is the one he said that 30-year-old comment to. Like,
yeah, and like, I don't get why. Oh, also the fact that he's like, "Oh, I don't go for nerdy girls like teachers." I don't think this man has a concept of what is nerdy, first off. He's probably like, "Oh, she watched Game of Thrones. That's so nerdy of her. How quirky and odd for a girl." He didn't say this. I'm just putting these. I'm putting these words.
I feel like we're just going on a laundry list of why we don't like David. and he tells, I forgot who he told it to. I think it was Molly. He's like, "I didn't really bring this up because it's not really relevant. But my last relationship ended because I cheated." Like,
that is relevant. That is so relevant. The most relevant thing you've said. Okay. Also, what is the term for an Oedipus complex, but with your sister? Because he's got that. He's got, my sister is in charge of me. And also, yeah, you should probably be afraid of meeting my sister because she doesn't like anyone I date and she doesn't think anyone's good enough for me. And I'm like, this is a toxic, bad situation that's already happening.
Just red flags all over the place. He's crying in the lounge talking about, "I just don't know how I'm going to introduce her to my sister. This is going to be a problem." Like,
and I think one of the guys was like, "Well, it's your life. Yeah, you care what your sister thinks."
Yeah, like, you don't understand.
I'm a firm believer in, if you are close with your family, that is very important for them to get along with you. But if you are close with your family and have a good, healthy relationship with your family should want to support you in your relationship.
They should want you to be loved.
Tell you if it's like, "Hey, there's some really red flags here." But it's not like a positive when your family members or close friends are like preventing you from dating anyone and are don't like anyone or whatever and scare them off. And like, that's not a good thing. Like, it sounds like you need to work out your relationship with your sister because it seems rough.
And I think David was the one that was like also saying like, "I didn't expect to come here and like actually find someone to love." And like, he literally had a panic attack in the pods of like, I'm having feelings. Like, what is going on? This is so weird. It's like, my heart is slumping. I don't know why I'm going through this. Like, I have so many feelings. Like, I gotta go. I gotta leave. Which is like, okay.
He said something about his testicle was throbbing.
Yeah.
And I was like, why would you share that?
Also, another quote from him was, "Everyone, believe people when they tell you who they are and don't try to change them." When he comes out and says, I haven't had a lot of integrity in the past. I cheated on my last relationship, but I'm trying to be a better person. How recent was this?
You're right.
Because I don't remember how old he is. Too old, if you're on this show, to have been in a recent relationship where you feel like you didn't have a lot of integrity. Oh, he's the one who works in like a field where he's constantly around like Botox.
Medical aesthetics.
Yeah, medical aesthetic sales or something. And so he says that he's around like a lot of plastic surgery and stuff. And so that he has a hard time not just like viewing people who aren't at that standard or whatever as beautiful.
32, by the way.
32, too old for... guess his best days are behind him.
I feel like David's going to be someone where we're going to... I think he's almost like... I don't want to keep saying Steven, but he's like getting messages on social media or something like that.
Steven's like, how am I in it?
Like, why do you keep bringing me in? I just feel like he's going to have some bad messages, some bad something or other from outside the experiment. I feel like he's going to fall for it. I feel like that's going to be... He might be one of our cheaters of the season. I don't know.
I mean, that could be a lot of Married at First Sight still on the brain. I just feel like David. Oh, David.
There you go.
Same name. Okay, David. We have a David and a Madison on this cast, which is
gosh.
just odd.
That's true.
He's also married at first sight. David is just someone who I feel may be just like really just disinterested up front. I mean, he seems okay. Like when him and Lauren meet, so after the proposal at their reveal, it seems okay. He seems very giddy. Like he
They seem
seems
okay.
kind of different than the David we've seen in the pods. We've seen like an overconfident guy who's just kind of like, I'm just going to throw stuff out there because why not? But this guy is like, I'm so happy to meet you. Like, this is great. Like, he's in it. So I was like, maybe we're going to get a different David than we expected.
Another point against David. Why am I seeing this man's ankles in the reveal? Like,
Yeah.
wear full length pants, please.
Well, or a perfect opportunity for some statement socks.
True, very true. We didn't talk much about Molly. Do we think that Molly was reading a little bit too much into what David was feeding her? Because I did feel like she said some things that were like a little too confident off of what David was giving her.
I mean, I feel like she was excited based on their conversations, but like even in the whole, you were my number one. He did say from day 2, you were my number one. So with certain things, there were enough truths to where when he said other things, she could imply based on the other things that he has said. Like with the breaking up thing, he didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to end things." He said, "Oh, if I do end things." Mm-hmm. So it's kind of.
And she took that to mean that he was breaking up on the next date.
Yeah,
because she went in there and told everyone he's breaking up with his other girl on the next date. So I'm all good.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and check the tapes, but I'm 90% sure that the words came out of his mouth to Molly, "You're my number one," or "You've been my number one," or
since
whatever.
day 2, yeah.
And then he deliberately, maybe he forgot it, but he does tell Lauren multiple times, "I've never told her that. That's a lie if she says that." He might have truly forgotten that he said that, but he definitely said it.
I'm like, where is the flashback? Love is Blind? The evidence has to be there.
I'm sure it will come up at the reunion show. So
yeah. So I mean, when Molly cried to Lauren after being broken up with,
that was sad.
And then that was sweet, right? But when Molly walks away, Lauren is just smiling because it's like she's sitting there like, I won.
Yep.
It's like, girl, what did you win?
Listen, maybe they deserve each other. Maybe this will go fine.
Very true. Maybe they did. So it'll be very interesting to see their dynamic once they get on the getaway. I mean, which like a lot of these couples, because we've gotten so many stories that are just done after episode 6, which it feels like that for this next couple and our last couple, which obviously we don't the bulk of their content was the last 15 minutes of episode 6. Outside of that, they just like Christmas. So let's go ahead and talk about Daniel and Taylor.
Daniel is interesting because he comes in immediately. He's like, people are gonna hate me because I'm short. I'm 5'8".
Which
like me.
Can we please stop talking about 5'8" like it's 5'4"? Like I've seen guys.
Wow, sorry, people that are 5'4". Oh my God, Aysha did not mean to just blast you like that.
I'm like 5'8" is fine for a guy. I don't understand why he was saying it as if like because I'm thinking like, okay, I'm 5'4" and 3/4, so I claim 5'5".
and 3/4.
I was gonna say because I'm 5'3" and 3/4, so it's a girl thing. We got to do that. If you're under like 5'5", you're still adding any of those little bits you can.
Just because I like in my head I'm 5'10", but when you meet me, I'm 5'5", and if I'm looking at a guy who's like 5'3", 5'4", which I've seen before, I'm like, oh, okay, we're the same height. Some may suspect that person. Some people may call that person short. But if I'm seeing a guy who's 5'8", who's calling a 5'8" man short? I guess people in Minneapolis.
I don't know,
Because
basketball
that was
players.
I just felt like that was such a big storyline, even to the point where it's like he's talking about it at the reveal, and then even Taylor before they meet, she's like, "Well, if he's short, I don't know." So I was like, "Oh, is she gonna say
They
something?"
edited that shadow on Taylor to make it look like it was at the top of the door. Also,
Yeah.
they made it look like when the door opened, I was like, "Oh, she's gonna be like, it's been a whole thing. We don't know, but she's actually 5'11". No,
Even gave him so much headspace. It was like when they did the reveal, he was down
yeah,
here.
yeah.
I was like,
They
"Why are
they
y'all doing
edited that
to
on purpose.
him?"
And to be clear, I'm pretty sure she was wearing heels, and she was definitely still shorter than him. So,
She was
they were
like
about the same
right
height.
there,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
like the
but
same
it
height.
wasn't. She was not
She
taller
didn't
than
tower,
him.
yeah.
She was not
no.
taller than him, and if she wasn't wearing heels, she would definitely be shorter than him. So,
Yeah, so that got me.
I
We're
don't know.
talking about the reveal already, which I guess is fine because they really didn't have much. There was a lot of talk about. There were some coincidences that will come into play later.
There were
about-
some things that were too coincidental. Some
Yes.
specifics.
They got
And
each
I'm just
other
going to
gifts.
call out having the exact same stocking.
Yeah, weird. They got each other Christmas gifts as gifts. It was Valentine's Day, so that's weird to get each other Christmas gifts. That was weird. They both love Taco Bell. Apparently, she has it tattooed in her lower lip.
Yeah.
Taco B.
Taco B, which is weird.
Yeah.
So was there anything else inside of their dates? So it was like
It was
and-
basically
Their dads have the same last or same. No, their moms have the
there
same
were a lot
middle
of
name.
There were a
their
lot of
da-
people whose dads had the same name.
Who did it? That was another thing. Why are y'all waiting to bring that up? The
No.
moment I'm meeting a David, my dad's name's David.
Right.
Like it's instant.
It was Brittany and Devin whose dads were both named Willie.
They're
or
grandpa,
both
yes.
juniors. Yeah.
Or sorry,
Yeah.
yeah. But Taylor's dad's name is Daniel, and one of the girls who was dating David's dad's name is David also. But I don't
So
remember which
weird.
one.
I
weird.
thought it was also who was Ben with?
Sarah?
Sarah. Didn't Sarah say her dad's name was Ben?
I'm not sure. Also possible.
I don't remember.
It happened multiple times though.
Yeah.
But there were
yeah.
so many things peppered inside of Daniel and Taylor. When you get to the end and we talk about
It all
that
makes
thing,
sense at the end.
Yeah, like where he goes, do you think you follow me on Instagram? Like I don't
When
think so.
she gave her Instagram handle, I said, that's never been done. This
Yeah.
matters. It's
Where he
like
got-
I'm watching some like CSI and I'm like, that was intentional.
Where they go
Because-
like, do you think we crossed paths before? Like, do you think that's possible?
Because they were so
these,
similar.
but these could be things that are happening in the pods that we just don't see. And because of what happens later, they're just
They
like
included, yeah.
because they're all from the same area. So I'm sure this conversation is happening in other pods. Like you think we, and I'm surprised this doesn't happen more often that people know each other or see each other out about around town. They know each other. So I'm surprised this doesn't happen more often. But yeah, they were seeding this throughout their whole segments. And
So
what did you guys think of the reveal, though? I thought at the
Well-
reveal, she did not like him at first.
Me neither. Yeah. I also thought that.
it felt nervous. I wrote, ooh, they immediately walked over to the bench. Like she went there before he tried to get
He
down.
even
and give her
proposed again.
But she
that's
walks
always
up to him and she goes, "You want to shake hands?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Ooh."
I know.
And he was like, like I immediately was like, "Uh-oh."
And he's like, "Can I have a kiss?"
she's like, "Sure," and kisses him. And then they go back in, and she goes for the hug, not the kiss.
Yeah.
She goes for the hug. I was like, "Oh, this isn't looking good." But then as it goes, she seems a lot more comfortable with him by the end of it. Maybe it was just nerves.
enough
I
to
don't know.
where her makeup is all over his suit jacket. Not all over, but on the shoulder. I was like, goodness.
Yeah. This was definitely like a mystery novel, the way they edited all this together. Because I was the whole time with them, I was like, wow, they've got so much in common. It's almost too coincidental.
Right. Because it's so funny because like even the part where I'm like, you know, there's so much dialogue, especially in the pod portion of the show, that when we're having the conversation about him describing his Christmas cards that he's made, I'm like, am I even going to write this down for my notes? He's just like, now I'm making these Christmas cards by myself, and I think it'd be really cute to add my wife, and I was just like, why are they telling it? Like, there's enough. And I love Christmas. I love Christmas. That is my favorite holiday.
Show your sweater again.
I adore Christmas. And I was like, okay, too much. But when we finally get the big reveal, 24 hours at the Women's Hotel, this is the first season they have been transparent that these people go to a hotel to stay.
Can I say, I literally thought they had like some bunk style room inside of the complex where they would go after they went on their dates and they would go sleep.
Nope.
I literally thought that. And then most of the time I was talking about, when I went to the hotel last night, I was like, y'all staying in a hotel?
Never included that. Yeah. They were like, shoot, we're going to show the hotel episode 6. So let's go ahead and include that.
It's like when it blew my mind when I found out the people in the Trader's Castle don't stay in the castle. I'm like, what?
Okay, no, hold on. Now my mind's blown on that. Where are they staying?
Yeah, at a hotel.
Go to a hotel. They get transported to a hotel every night. Yeah. When they go up the steps to go to bed, they're not going to bed. They go into a transport.
They come right back down and go outside.
Shoot, now I'm disappointed. I was disappointed about that.
Sorry to bust your bubble, Mary.
That one I knew. They're in like a warehouse. They're not staying there. But man, I'm disappointed in the other one.
Yeah, I thought it was like that Squid Game show where they have like exactly high bunk beds.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Well, so yes, this big reveal was huge because I'm thinking, okay, 24 hours later, she has just realized she wasn't attracted to him. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking it's like the two people from last season.
Yeah, I thought that we were gonna get the black screen. Taylor decided she actually didn't like Short Kings, and they broke it off. That's what I thought we were gonna get.
It was in fact not Short King season.
Right. But the fact that we get this reveal that she recognized him and was like, where do I know him from? And found out that he had followed her on Instagram, and she remembered a picture, but because when she saw he followed, she went to his page and was like, I don't know him. I'm not following him back. Now she's suspicious of all the similarities they've had because she said he followed her before the show.
And it doesn't seem like she even got her phone back and checked that. It seems like she just
remembered it.
All this is from memory.
Yes.
Here is where I'm calling shenanigans. Because honestly, I don't think any of this matters about whether or not he should have been honest with her or whether or not whatever. No. Here's the shenanigans. Production knew. And there is no way. They make it seem like, oh, you just want to go on Love is Blind? You just sign up and like you know who's going to be on there. No. Production had to have known this because there's no way he could have walked in, heard the name Taylor and been like, I know who that is. So unless he discovered it slowly throughout that this is the girl, they happen to both apply to the same show, happen to both get on, and then he happened to find her and that there weren't a bunch of other people named Taylor, and then like go through this whole thing. He's got to be a plant by production where he knew that she was going to be on the show because I don't see how else. I think it would be, it is way too maniacal to be like, he happened to get on the show, figure out who she was after just like following her on Instagram one time. I mean, is he like a master level stalker to where he remembered all these things about her?
Here's what I think
played it off like he, like, because I feel like I would have been at some point in the show, I'd be like, okay, I followed a girl once who was also really into Taco Bell and these things. Are you that girl? Because that would have made a little more sense. I just don't see how we get through this whole process without him having known she was going to be on the show somehow.
Look, Lydia also knew somebody that was in the pods. But, and I think it could be a similar situation. She said, if she said it happened a few months ago, they're going through casting. Daniel could have easily followed recent follows, because when you follow people, it's like, it's kind of like chronological. He could have followed recent followers from his casting person to see, oh, maybe some of these girls that this casting person followed could be on Love is Blind.
Well, then sounds like someone that's done that for Survivor.
No.
But I don't think that that's a fault then. I think that that's a fine thing to do. I think the fault then comes in where they make it seem like, and I think rightfully so, her concern is this whole thing has been a lie, and that he specifically saw me having followed, came up with a list of talking points, and basically curated his personality over being someone I would like.
Right.
That is obviously the fear. And so if that happened, boy howdy, would I also be peacing out, because I'd be like, well, we've broken the experiment, first off.
No, that's not even a first off. First off is restraining order. Done.
Yeah.
Yes, because
if
that's wild.
That's maniacal and creepy.
It is.
For you to be like, okay, I know this girl's trying to get on Love is Blind. I'm gonna stalk her page. I'm gonna get they asked me to bring stuff to give to people. I'm gonna get a stocking that looks exactly like her stocking with my initial on it. That'll freak her out. That'll make her think we're meant to be together. I'll have my faith and family. I have my Taco Bell stuff. I'll have everything ready to match up perfectly to her. She can't say no to me if all of our interests match up, and she can't see me. She can't see I'm a short king. When she sees me and sees I'm a short king, all that other good stuff is gonna not even matter. It's gonna matter the most because she won't care I'm a short king.
As probably the only person on this panel who is how am I gonna say this? Who is bad enough to have done this.
I can't wait for this.
I feel like there's a thing.
Wait, back up. I don't think we heard you. What'd you say?
I said who is bad enough to have done this. I feel like there's a thing where here's what I could understand. He's going on this show. He's going through casting process. He looks at the people who've followed kinetic casting or whatever it is, and then he realizes, oh shoot, I have a ton in common with this girl. We'd be perfect together. I too love Taco Bell and Christmas. We would be so great. I'm going to keep an eye out for her if she gets in there. I think that's weird, but that's not terrible. It's the fact that I think that he did what Jason said, which is tried to make it where she would really like him. And so we have no idea whether or not this is his real personality or not.
Yeah, I think the most maniacal thing we can think of is that he knows her in real life. He knows who she is, like just out and about. She doesn't know who he is, but he's like, I really want to get with this person. And I heard through the grapevine, through mutual friends.
Didn't she say they have mutual friends?
They have mutual friends.
And I don't like this.
He heard through the grapevine of mutual friends.
Oh, we could have heard that.
If you have mutual friends, then you ask for a setup. You say, hey, let's plan an event where we can both be there and meet each other in a natural way.
But the friends know. But the friends know that she wouldn't be into him. So they're like, no, she wouldn't be into you. So he's like. So he's like, fine. I heard from her friends that she's going to be trying to get on Love is Blind. Let me try to get on Love is Blind. Let me see what she likes. Ugh. Let me look at her Instagram page, get all my stuff set up.
Okay, I prefer that theory. I forgot about the mutual friends thing because it is obvious when you look at her Instagram. In her bio, she says, "in Taco Bell," lots of Taco Bell, and then she does have a Christmas highlights. And the fact that we got to see them meet and her confront him and ask him about this, and his reaction, it was just of like mild confusion, not like the audacity. Like, what are you talking? Like, that's,
I've been caught.
This was a I've been caught. How can I deny? When she says, I think I saw a picture of you. It was yada yada. And he's like, well, it was a little different than that. I was in front of a fire. But I think I have this.
Do you remember every picture you've posted? I don't.
You're right.
Well, I don't
like I can't just okay. So it's pepper on my right and cinnamon on my left.
I'm gonna fact check this, Asia. Let's see.
Yeah.
Literally,
let's see.
No clue how to describe the most recent, even any pictures on my Instagram feed.
Mostly videos. It's hold on, I gotta scroll down to
I know,
picture.
yeah.
It's in front of a tree. It's in front of a tree. You got some dogs.
Right. See, and who are there gifts? Is it pepper? I don't know. The fact that his reaction was, I don't follow you on Instagram. She's like, well, then you unfollowed me. Because his follow was, hey, I'm trying to shoot my shot. I want her to notice me if he were interested, right?
Right.
And then she doesn't follow him back. He knows they're going to be on Love is Blind. He's like, well, let me go ahead and unfollow her so it doesn't look weird. And she better check her message requests.
Yeah. Just to rewind, because this is all about me. I have never done something like that. Well,
when you said from someone that's done this, what was this you were talking about?
I think what I meant was, as a podcaster for reality TV, I have followed people on reality TV before, like this show and other shows or whatever, where in your mind you're like, oh, they're kind of cute, but I've never like slid into DMs or anything. Not that he did that, but I also, if I was finding out that I was going on a show, I'd probably actively not follow all the like production companies because that would be, I don't know, that'd be weird.
Interesting.
But I also live in a bubble where I assume that no one's following me or paying attention to what I'm doing at any point in time. So I would assume that no one's looking.
Let's take a poll of us three. Is this legit? He stalked her. He followed her. He did this on purpose.
I think I forgot about the fact that they had mutual friends. I think now remembering that, I think that I will come down in the middle and I will say the middle ground is he either heard from mutual friends or from the following the production company that he guessed she might be going on the show. He clicked on her profile, thought that they would have a lot in common because he does have a lot of stuff about Christmas.
He's like,
and
crap,
then
she didn't notice me.
Then from that point on, did try to present a particular side of himself in the pods in order for her to like him. I do not necessarily think that he has been like this master level stalker for years and years and years or anything like that. But I do think that what I just stated is there, of which for her, I would at the very minimum say, I literally can't trust the fact that you knew who I was going in. I cannot trust anything you've said, any of these connections. I will never know whether these were real or not.
It puts a whole new spin on when she was like, I might have to leave to take care of my parents. He was like, I'd come find you.
I would find you. What's your Instagram? He's like T.HA.
As she says it.
Right.
Like, I'd come find you at 1285 Cranberry Way where you live. Because I know that stuff.
What we can agree on is that he knew what she looked like. I think no matter how it went down, I think he knew what she looked like.
Which defeats the entire purpose of the whole show.
Exactly. And here's this here's the let me get Jason on here. There we go. Here's the picture in question if you're watching us on YouTube. So his legs were crossed. He tried to deny he denied the drink, but that wasn't even the most important part. You are sitting in front of what she could remember. Like she's trying to remember this picture. And he's from memory saying,
I don't understand how she reached in the back recesses of her mind to grab this photo out of her mind and to see his face in that picture in her mind and to recall that. That is impressive.
She's probably like, that is an interesting picture for a 27-year-old.
Well, he's 30. He's 20. He is. I don't know.
Or yeah, is he? Actually, I'm thinking of someone else maybe, but yeah. So
we didn't see any of them in the like coming up.
We did. We saw them at the get together, which
right at the get together. But do you think that this breaks off right from here? Do you think the first episode of the next drop is going to be her being like, I'm leaving. This is too weird.
I think there's a world where she buys this and they keep going.
Once she gets her phone.
Who knows? He could also just deny, be like, "Oh, I forgot that I followed you. Like, I forgot that was a thing."
All she has to do is ask these mutual friends.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't like this. And honestly, no matter what, his reaction when she called him out on it was so sus to begin with. But like trying to downplay the thing that he had obviously been caught in, because it's obvious that he had followed her. Whether or not it was for diabolical long-term plan reasons or if it was a casual just searching through the people who have been recently followed and been like, oh, she seems cool, we'll never know.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. I was not expecting that in any shape, form, or fashion. I was just like, wait, what?
Wild stuff.
I thought we were just talking about his height.
Yeah, and it could be confirmation bias, but when he walked in, it was just like, it looked like he almost knew what to expect. He's just like,
crap.
Oh, she got me.
Spit it out. Yeah, they left in all that on. I forgot they left in the fact that they put in the part of him like, I'll find you, even if you have to leave. And he was all in on her from day one. Like, didn't even entertain anybody. No one. Well, it did say that he had a couple of he says he was all in on her, but from an article with her, she said that he was also dating Vanessa, who we also saw in the pod, and one other person. But she said she was also dating Dave at one point.
Well, I mean, it's a good way to cover your tracks to also date other people, to be like, not like, no, I'm only dating Taylor.
Yeah.
For reasons.
From the article that Aysha's talking about, she does say something along the lines of like, oh, he's still like a nice person or whatever.
Yeah, she's like, just remember his character.
Which would actually make me believe that whether or not they continue with the experiment into the next phase, or if they just maybe got back home and did actually meet up, and that this was not like a creepy scenario, then I could totally believe that they might still actually be together or had dated at some point or something.
Yeah,
Because like I said, best case scenario is just that he truly didn't really actually know her, but saw her and was like, oh, we have a lot in common. That's like best case scenario. It still breaks the experiment, and it still would make her question things.
Yeah, I'm definitely not buying a coincidence of they just had Christmas themed stuff.
Not
He coincidentally has the same exact stocking she has.
No, that's I major creep vibes on that one. I mean, he clearly is very into Christmas, because those Christmas card things, those were there. You can scroll back on his Instagram; they're there for years.
Yeah, imagine none of that is imagine none of it is true, and she's remembering incorrectly.
I don't think that's right.
Right?
Can we ever trust that?
I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible.
Could he be like, "Oh, you just got it wrong. We can move forward"?
No. Not even.
I would be too. I would be too freaked out. I'd be like, yeah. I even if it is true, I've convinced myself it's even if it's not true. I've convinced myself it's true. Right. So I can't keep forward with this. I'm sorry that my brain is messing this up, but there's just too much going on. I can't continue with this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else to say about any of these couples?
I'm glad the 6-episode drop is over. I hate these 6-episode drops. They are terrible. I hate them.
Netflix,
there's too much information in my mind to succinctly go over all of it in one podcast. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Netflix, don't be afraid of the montage, and don't be afraid of the 30-minute episode.
I know they didn't give us nearly enough montages this episode. Or this one, these 6 episodes.
I feel like in the early seasons, they were not afraid to show us other people in the pods, even like in the clips.
Yeah.
But we got nobody. But our main, how many people did you say it was? Asia 16?
16.
And there are 30-something people in this show or more?
Yeah.
Remember? I think I mentioned this in the past. It's like, in the first couple seasons, we would get clips, especially in the first 2 episodes, of just like a minute or so with a person who we then don't really see much anymore after that, but at least we'll get a few of those. And right now it's like, you're either on the show or you're not on the show at all.
You'll be lucky if you get caught talking to one of our main people. Then you can at least get a Chiron to know what your name and age is.
If you're a pod friend and we see you later,
had no clue.
Pod friends.
Also, just to wrap this up at the end, to bring it back to me, look, I get stressed out every time we cover Love is Blind, because this show is about human relationship dynamics, which is extremely different for everybody. Everyone has very, very strong opinions about what is good and bad to say and do in relationships, and I think it's really fun to discuss those things. Do not send me hate if you disagree with me on this show. I'm tired of it.
I am putting my foot
It's a
down.
TV show. It's a TV show where we're watching people. We can disagree on who we think is good or bad, or should be together, or shouldn't be together, and that is beautiful, and I love it. And you can hate on me in your privacy of your own home. It doesn't need to be on the internet.
You know, Mary, if I know people like I think I know people, what you just did is going to work perfectly.
Right. That's exactly. They're typing. They said,
erase everything I just said. Please send me hate.
Yeah, let me stop. Let me not send Mary that hate, because she just asked me not to. That's how the world works. That's how the internet works, Mary. If you didn't know this, that's a good idea.
No, I mean, look, we do this for fun. I think it's a fun time, and I honestly don't actually care that much. Yeah, I think it's very intriguing to see when people are so polarizing. I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think in short, there's a way to express your opinion, even if it's different from any of ours, but to do it in a nice, respectful way. Every time we do this thing, there are varying opinions, and there is a way to express your opinion without hate.
Yes. Yeah. And also, invariably, every season, there is someone who turns out in the second drop to be vastly different, good or bad, than we thought in the first drop. So also, just note, at this point, we've only seen the first drop. So if something comes out after this, don't be like, can't believe they loved so-and-so. It's like, don't you know they're terrible? Well, we didn't at the time, actually.
I guess I'm curious for the two of you. Who are you rooting for right now?
As a couple?
As
I
a
mean,
couple,
I think Devin
individual.
and Virginia probably. I'm
Okay.
I'm curious about them. We just don't know much about them yet, so I'm not
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure.
I'm just finding it that I'm not really rooting for anyone
Yeah,
right now.
there's no one that I'm like, oh, they're so great. I would love them. I would say probably the closest might be Joey and
Monica.
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 If we got to know more about them, like we saw
Yeah,
so much
I
anti-Joey
think they could
footage
be
in the
cute.
more to come.
Yeah, I usually feel like at the end of the first drop, I'm like, yeah, this is my like number one couple. Even if they crash and burn later,
Yeah.
I'm out of the first drop. Like, I want these people to succeed. I want these people to succeed. And I want these people to fail. I have a couple of
Um,
fail,
Look,
but
if Ben shows any sign of wanting to like care about like things in the world that don't affect him, then I can be rooting for Ben and Sarah.
I could be rooting for his growth as a person.
Yeah. I'm
That sounds
pro
bad. I could be
Ben's
rooting for
growth
his
arc.
growth.
Yeah.
um, I don't know. Yeah, I don't want David to succeed. I don't know what succeeding is in this point, because succeeding in so many of these relationships is getting out of the relationship. So
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. No,
So
I regret everything I've said in the last 2 hours.
we'll see what
Who
next week
knows?
brings. I think it'll be episodes 7 through 9, but we will be
Well,
back next week to talk about the next drop. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you go subscribe to the Love at First Sight feed. You can find that at we know realitytv.com and also the first sight pod.com. And also there is a Facebook group that we have for a Perfect Match podcast where we talk about Married at First Sight, but there's always a lot of chatter about Love is Blind during the season. So if you need some people to talk about Love is Blind with, come hop in the Facebook group. You can leave when Love is Blind ends, or you could stay for Married at First Sight. We would love to have you. But go look up a Perfect Match podcast on Facebook, and you need a password to join. This week the password is "Who are these people?" Because I referred to my PowerPoint deck this entire podcast, just to make sure I did not mix anybody up. But if you put in "Who are these people?" agree to the group rules, you can join in on the fun and talk about Love is Blind this season in our Facebook group. So yeah, Mary, what are you up to? Where can people keep up with you?
Well, for something completely different, I'm covering a very, very different show than this right now on Reno Reality TV, which is the show Extracted on Fox. It's
Oh,
a
nice.
new survivalist style reality TV show. And it's sort of Hunger Games meet, I don't know, some sort of living in the wild type of show where there's a bunch of contestants who are trying to survive in the Canadian wilderness while their family members are back at headquarters competing to send them supplies. And the family members are the ones who are in charge of whether or not they want to extract the person if they think that they're not safe. So it's a completely different type of show, still very interesting. And if you want to see my coverage of that, you can check that out and follow me everywhere at Frail Mary for that, including Instagram, where I don't have any Christmas photos.
Awesome. Jason, where can people keep up with you?
You can follow me on Blue Sky at JR33D. You can find me there, see what I'm up to. As far as podcasting goes, I do have The Good Pod with me and Marissa Garza, where we talk about the show The Good Wife and the Good Wife related spinoffs and properties. We're having fun over there, so come check that out. And as coming up soon on We Know Scripted TV, me and my same co-host Marissa are going to be talking with Grace Leader about the last ever drop of the show Cobra Kai. So we'll be having fun doing that as well. And as Asia mentioned, we do have our podcast, The Perfect Match, where we cover Married at First Sight. Every time we do Love is Blind recently, I've been saying, if you like Love is Blind, you will love Married at First Sight. This season especially, I'm going to tell you, if you like Love is Blind, if you like mess, you like drama, Married at First Sight is giving it to you in spades. There's so much drama and mess. There are affairs. There are different things going on. There are terrible, reprehensible people you will love to root against. So if you're not getting what you need from Love is Blind, come over to Married at First Sight. We got plenty of drama and mess for you. So yeah, follow us over there as well. And that's it for me.
All right, awesome. And y'all can give me a follow at Asia like Asia. That's AYSHA, like ASIA. I'm mostly active on Instagram, so you could check me out there. And yeah, you can catch me every week on A Perfect Match, talking about Married at First Sight, or here talking about Love is Blind. So thank y'all so much for sticking with us, and we will see y'all next week. Bye.